Chapter 1044. The 9 strands of immortal Qi gathered in front of Lin Feng, who was in the palace on the Immortal Mountain. With the 9 Qis on him, Lin Feng's body seemed to be shrouded in a layer of 9-colored halo. He formed a seal with both hands and changed his hand sign. Then, he took a step back and escaped from the 9-colored halo. However, a faint light silhouette of him remained where he was, intertwining with the 9-colored halo and gradually showing signs of fusing. That light silhouette was faint and barely visible in the air. One could only vaguely make out that its facial features were similar to Lin Feng's. The light silhouette closed its eyes with a calm expression. Silently, it formed a seal with both hands and stood where it was. The 9 Qis of the Immortal Mountain circled around its body, finally turning into a 9-colored divine light. It was Mount Penglai's unique 9 Qis Great Golden Hall Vacuum Divine Light. This divine light merged with the light silhouette that Lin Feng had left behind, causing the light silhouette to become more and more condensed. The 9 strands of immortal Qi on Mount Penglai continuously gathered towards this light silhouette. It was as if 9 huge chains were wrapped around the light silhouette, or as if they were connected to the 9 paths of heaven and earth. Lin Feng sat down in a lotus position. As he formed a seal with both hands, streams of magic power were infused into the light silhouette. The light silhouette that was originally the height of a normal person began to grow taller. Soon, it exceeded 10 feet. Its height gradually slowed down, but it was still growing. I used the 9 strands of vital Qi condensed from the essence of heaven and earth on Mount Penglai to refine this clone. It also coincides with the meaning of heaven and earth are me. Lin Feng thought, if it's the same as what I expected, it means that my previous deduction was correct. However, refining this clone would take a long time. It could not be completed in a short time. Fortunately, Lin Feng was not in a hurry at all. The process of refining the clone was also very beneficial for his own cultivation of the Tao. The refinement of the clone was mainly on Mount Penglai. Later on, when it was on the right track, it would not matter even if he left Mount Penglai for a period of time. After Zenith Luo ended his cultivation, he looked curiously at the light silhouette in front of Lin Feng. Master Lin, this is, Lin Feng smiled. This is me using the 9 strands of Mount Penglai to refine a clone. However, I'm still in the process of figuring it out, and some things are not yet complete. He looked at the grand heavenly immortal and smiled, saying, once this method is perfected, I'll teach it to you. You can use the same method to refine a clone. This method shouldn't be limited to the situation where your true body doesn't have a physical body at the moment. With such a clone, it'll be much easier for you to move around. Zenith Luo smiled in embarrassment. Of Master Lin is joking. Of you must use your demon power to figure it out on the side, it's good for your training. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head, his attention returning to the light and shadow in front of him. Zenith Luo sat cross-legged on the ground as well. He extended a strand of Qi and carefully wrapped it around the clone Lin Feng was refining, silently probing and sensing it. Zenith Heaven obeyed and also sat cross-legged on the ground, sending out a thread of demonic energy and carefully wrapping it around the clone that Lin Feng was currently refining, quietly probing and sensing. After a while, Zenith Luo sat cross-legged on the ground as well. He extended a strand of Qi and carefully wrapped it around the clone that Lin Feng was refining. Lin Feng then pushed it forward. As time continued to pass, when the height of the shadow in front of Lin Feng exceeded 30 feet, Lin Feng faintly smiled, his 2 hands coming together and then pushing forward. As time passed, when the height of the clone in front of Lin Feng exceeded 10 feet, Lin Feng smiled and made a hand seal before pushing it forward. The clone trembled slightly before returning to calmness. Meanwhile, Lin Feng himself stood up. Master Lin, you're leaving? Zenith Luo opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. What comes next is some grinding. When this clone grows to almost 90 feet tall, I'll come back and continue refining it. He turned and walked out of the palace. Focus on your cultivation from now on. When he reached the palace's entrance, he stopped and turned to look at Zenith Luo. Slowly, he said, an opportunity might appear before you at any time. When it does, you'll need to be strong enough to grasp it. Zenith Luo took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Zenith Luo understands. Master Lin, don't worry. Lin Feng exited the great hall, stepping on the void and walking between heaven and earth. He looked at the enormous Mount Penglai, looked at the 9 invisible streams of air converging together into the great hall, and above the great hall, a 9-colored divine light faintly illuminated the heaven and earth. The great Tao of all things in the world is truly filled with endless mysteries. Lin Feng smiled. The more I know, the stronger this feeling becomes. He turned and flew away, traversing through the Ying Sea. After flying for who knows how long, an enormous celestial mountain appeared in front of Lin Feng. In the distorted space around the celestial mountain, there seemed to be tens of millions of transparent jade plates floating, crystal clear and smooth. Each of the jade slabs was extremely huge. They were rectangular and each was half an acre in size. They were stacked together and spread out at the same time, wrapping around the immortal mountain like a sphere. With a point of Lin Feng's finger, the tens of millions of transparent jade slabs started to move, opening up a gap like a door, allowing Lin Feng to enter. This immortal mountain, that was not inferior to Mount Penglai, was naturally Yingzhou. Compared to the secretive Mount Penglai, everyone knew that Yingzhou had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. Some of the resources produced by Yingzhou were like the resources in the mystic heaven realm. They had become powerful bargaining chips for Lin Feng. Most of the time, it was more convenient than using force. A large number of resources were also supplied to Xianmen Tianzong for their own use, boosting the sect's strength. Among the 3 mountains in the Ying Sea, Yingzhou had the most and the strongest illusions. Apart from being an important place for resources, it was also an important place for Xianmen Tianzong's disciples to train. The illusions here could play an important role in the training of the younger disciples. Lin Feng swept his gaze across Yingzhou. As his eyes moved, a few streams of light naturally flew up from the immortal mountain and landed in front of Lin Feng. With a flick of his sleeve, he collected these items and landed beside a sweet spring. This was naturally the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain's jade spring that could nourish Dharma treasures. At the moment, 2 huge black shadows were floating in the spring water. According to normal standards, it's long enough. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. However, there's no harm in waiting a little longer. After saying that, he turned around and left Yingzhou. Lin Feng exited the Ying Sea and walked above the East Sea. His line of sight looked towards the northeast. That was the direction of another realm passageway that connected the vast land of the divine continent and infinite wasteland. Time waits for no man, a storm is coming. I wonder what will be the fuse that will ignite a new war between the 2 worlds? He turned around and headed west. His footsteps crossed the vast ocean and landed on land again. He passed through the territory of the Great Zhou dynasty and finally stopped at the old site of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. Looking at the dilapidated ruins, Lin Feng's expression was calm. Emperor Ruhuang, you comprehended the Tao of karma in the past and improved your strength. You became a Buddha immediately and established the foundation of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. You're truly a hero of your generation. To you are the millions of Buddhist believers in the world and the Buddhist orthodoxy that you single-handedly established, not interested in worldly possessions and flesh? Lin Feng shook his head, his gaze turning, looking towards the empty sky in the southeast direction, quietly saying, I still have things to do recently, so I won't be going to your place to sit for a while. It's rude of me to pass by and not enter. The sky in the southeast was still empty, but a voice suddenly sounded. Master of the Mystic Gate, you're too kind. The Great Zhou dynasty and I welcome your presence at any time. Lin Feng nodded. You're too kind. After saying that, He put his hands behind his back and walked away. He disappeared into the void and continued heading west. In the distant plain mountain in the southeast of the great Thunderclap Monastery ruins, in the great Zhou dynasty's capital, Tianjing City. Silently, Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou sat on the dragon throne in the main hall of the palace. His fingers gently stroked the armrest of the dragon throne, and he remained silent for a long time. In the past few years, compared to when the great Zhou dynasty was rapidly expanding, it was much more low-key. It was no longer as aggressive and domineering as before. To say that it was behaving with its tail between its legs would be a bit of an exaggeration. But without a doubt, it was much more cautious in its actions. Especially when facing Xianmen Tianzong. It was naturally impossible to retreat without a bottom line. If that happened, the great Zhou dynasty's unity and the people's hearts would all scatter. But its style of doing things had indeed gone from radical to conservative. When facing the Qin dynasty and other forces, the great Zhou dynasty's attitude was still unyielding. It only stopped its steps of active expansion and switched from offensive to defensive. After a few years of hiding its strength, biding its time, and careful planning, the great Zhou dynasty slowly regained its footing. But up until now, the great Zhou dynasty still maintained a restrained attitude when it came to external relations. But this didn't mean that the ruler and ministers of the great Zhou dynasty had given up on improving themselves. They were just patiently waiting for the opportunity to rise up again and swallow everything. The next war between the two worlds is an opportunity. Under the torrential situation, no one can completely control the direction of the situation. Liang Pan's gaze was profound. If we can't grasp this opportunity in the war between the two worlds, then we can only wait for the moment when Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple directly fight. If we can't grasp these two opportunities, then the situation is truly worrying. In front of him appeared an illusion of light. In the illusion, there was a handsome middle-aged man with a golden crown on his head, white hair at his temples, sitting cross-legged. It was the great Zhou dynasty's Xuanji Marquis Zhu Hongwu. Zhu Hongwu opened his eyes at this time. His eyes flashed with a frightening light. He calmly said, "There will definitely be a battle between Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple." The great Zhou Emperor Liang Pan said, "The opportunity is right in front of us. We have to have enough strength to grasp it. Before, we hoped that the war between the two worlds would come as late as possible. That way our great Zhou can prepare more and more easily. But now we hope that the war between the two worlds will come as early as possible. Otherwise, our opponents will advance faster than us. Only this kind of unexpected event that no one can control can bring us an opportunity." Liang Pan's expression was calm. "This is very sad and also very humiliating. But it is a fact that we must face." Zhu Hongwu lowered his head. "This subject is guilty." Liang Pan shook his head. "It is not a crime of war. Hongwu, you don't need to take it to heart. It is just that you must speed up the process of breaking through to the Tao integration realm. The stronger our great Zhou is, the more likely we will be to grasp the opportunity when it comes." Silently Zhu Hongwu replied, "Reporting to your Majesty, this subject has already found the way." Chapter 1045. Liang Pan looked at Zhu Hongwu. "Hongwu, you have been stuck in the primordial spirit incarnation realm for too long, but it has also allowed you to accumulate a lot of resources. With your talent and the accumulated resources of the great Zhou dynasty, refining your spirit to return to the void, returning to the void, and merging with the Tao should be a matter of time. But now that time is tight, you might be at a disadvantage if you put in all your effort to break through." Zhu Hongwu said, "Please don't worry, Your Majesty. I know my own situation well. Pressure is always motivation. The more pressing the external environment, the faster I will break through. If not for the pressure from Xianmen Tianzong, I would have spent more time and energy to reach the void and fuse with the Tao." Zhu Hongwu's skin was like white jade, shimmering with light. His eyes were like the deep sea, deep and quiet, but also sparkling. He said calmly, "That unfilial son has attained the primordial spirit Tao and used the power of his master, the master of the Xianmen sect, to achieve great victories in Shu Mountain and Tianhuang continent. Now, he is delusional enough to think that he can go against the rules and do things that are fatherless and childless. In the past 5 years, he has returned to the Marquis residence every year, wanting to do something disgraceful. But because I was in seclusion in the Grotto Heaven, I returned empty-handed. But every time he came, he disrespected his elders, his mother, and his brothers. He was extremely arrogant and despotic. Such an unfilial son deserves to be killed." Liang Pan said, "Of course I know about this. But you were in seclusion a few years ago, so I didn't tell you so as not to disturb you." Zhu Hongwu stood up and bowed. "Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty. But although I had great gains in seclusion, I reached a bottleneck at the last moment. After I came out of seclusion, I heard the news and successfully broke through the bottleneck. Now, I'm only one step away from the void and fuse with the Tao. This is something that unfilial son would never have dreamed of." The movements of his fingers seemed to contain a mysterious rhythm. "If that unfilial son comes again, I will capture him and teach him a lesson." Liang Pan said, "In these years your son, Zhu Yi, should not have stagnated. He should have improved. We're in a delicate situation right now. Hongwu, you have to be patient for now. Returning to the void integration stage is more important." Zhu Hongwu replied, "If I capture and kill that unfilial son, my mind will be clear. I'm afraid I can immediately return to the void and merge with the Tao and end that unfilial son one-on-one. Based on the personality of the celestial sect master, I'm afraid he won't interfere." Liang Pan shook his head. "We still have to prevent any accidents, especially now that the master of the celestial sect has his eyes on the demon race and the Taishu temple. This is an opportunity for the Zhou dynasty. I know that Zhu Yi has taken the initiative to visit you several times and disobeyed you, making you unhappy, but a new war between the two worlds may break out at any time. We must be prepared." After a moment of silence, Zhu Hongwu respectfully replied, "This subject obeys." Liang Pan asked, "Hongwu, will it affect your breakthrough to the Tao integration realm if I stop you?" Zhu Hongwu shook his head. "Your Majesty, your decree, the development of the Zhou dynasty, is above my personal honor. Although I'm unwilling, I won't be hindered by this. Even if I don't capture and kill that unfilial son, I have the confidence to return to the void and merge with the Tao, and it won't take long. However, there are still some concepts that I need to study, and I can't do it in one go." Suddenly, a ball of light appeared above his head. The light was so condensed that it seemed to be solid, as if there were many real worlds. Every world was in the shape of a wheel, and there seemed to be Buddhas sitting in it, chanting the great Tao. Countless worlds formed an even larger wheel, which slowly rotated above Zhu Hongwu's head. Countless worlds, countless Buddhas. Zhu Hongwu clenched his fists lightly, and the huge wheel above his head rotated even faster. He seemed to be using his own power to rotate the wheel of fate for the world. The huge wheel was condensed from Zhu Hongwu's martial will, and it seemed to represent the laws of the heavenly Tao. It decided the fate of all living beings, and its words were the law, unquestionable and undefiable. Liang Pan looked at the martial will that Zhu Hongwu had manifested and nodded. Using Buddhism's karma to understand all living beings, using the wheel of heaven to carry them, using the majesty of the world to rule over all living beings, and turning the wheel of life and death for all living beings in the world. Hongwu, your martial path is finally about to reach great success. Zhu Hongwu knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, I'm turning this wheel to support the Zhou dynasty. It's not easy to merge the three orthodoxies of Buddhism, Heavenly Gates, and Grand Emperor. Liang Pan said, however, if I directly look and sense it now, I can indeed find some areas that are not in harmony. You really need more time to study and study. Zhu Hongwu answered, these three orthodoxies indeed have their unique areas, and I can't say that I've completely merged them. However, there's no need for this. I only need to choose the concepts that suit me. Liang Pan said, this is a matter of course. He then looked at the huge wheel of heaven above Zhu Hongwu's head and frowned slightly. The problem seems to be with the Buddhist path of karma? Zhu Hongwu nodded. The path of karma itself is rather complicated. Back when we annihilated the Tempest Temple, the Mahavairokkana Sutra of the 5 Rulai Sutras was lost. The Immovable Buddha Sutra also lacks the general principles and the Immovable Lord's secret 10,000 techniques fundamental seal. Therefore, I'm still lacking in the study of the Buddhist path of karma. However, I've obtained the Immovable Lord's secret 10,000 techniques fundamental seal from the Taishu Temple. I've already gained a deeper understanding of the path of karma. With a little more time to accumulate, I'll be able to succeed. At that time, I'll also be able to advance into the realm of path integration. Liang Pan sighed. It's a pity that the Mahavairokkana Sutra has been completely lost since the war between the two worlds 4,600 years ago. I heard that even the Golden Cicada doesn't have a complete copy. It lacks the general principles and the Mahavairokkana Sutra fist seal. If you have this magical power, Hongwu, your strength will be able to go up another level. Moreover, with the complete 5 Rulai Sutra, it'll be even easier for you to break through to the realm of path integration. Liang Pan's gaze was calm. The Tsangtian Dao Jian has also fallen into the hands of Xianmen Tianzong. It should contain the inheritance of the ancient heavenly gates, great 9 heavens divine sword. If it falls into your hands, I believe it'll be helpful for you to comprehend the grand heavenly Tao. Zhu Hongwu said, there'll be opportunities in the future, Your Majesty. Liang Pan waved his hand. You'll have to bear with the matter regarding your son, Zhu Yi, for now. Zhu Hongwu bowed and replied, Your Majesty, since you've spoken, I'll let that unfilial son live for a few more days. Continue your cultivation. When you've succeeded, I'll celebrate for you. Liang Pan nodded. Zhu Hongwu's silhouette gradually disappeared before his eyes. I thank Your Majesty for your kindness. Liang Pan sat cross-legged on the dragon throne. He looked at the golden table in front of him in silence. After a while, he said faintly, Come in. A monk who looked like a middle-aged man appeared in the main hall. He put his palms together and bowed to Liang Pan, who was high up in the air. Dekong greets Your Majesty. The person who came was the former upper echelon of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. He was an expert of the Golden Body's second level of Buddhism, Monk Dekong. His expression was tranquil and peaceful. His body was shimmering with Buddha's light, showing his profound attainments in the Dharma. However, in the eyes of an expert like Liang Pan, he could tell that his current situation wasn't good. 7 years ago in the vast Thousand World, during the Battle of Yingxi, Monk Dekong suffered continuous heavy injuries in the core environment of Yingzhou Celestial Mountain. The Rulai Dharmakaya that he cultivated from Bukong to Rulai Sutra was almost completely shattered. That time, he had comprehended the relic Pure Land of the Buddhist senior expert, Zen Master Zhi Guang, through the Celestial Mountain's illusory realm. After that, Monk Dekong only needed to polish himself for a period of time to reach the Golden Body third level of Buddhism. It was almost a done deal. However, under the situation of continuous injuries, it was already a great fortune that he didn't fall back to the Golden Body first level. However, if he wanted to break through to the Golden Body third level, the hope was already extremely slim. Not only was it completely hopeless in the short term, even in the long term, if he didn't have any special opportunities, he would almost be cut off from improving. Such a loss could not be said to be small. Liang Pan asked, Zen Master, what's the matter? Silently, Monk Dekong said, this poor monk's senior brother from the same sect in the past, Zen Master Dade, has been serving as a guest in Xianmen Tianzong. Liang Pan didn't say anything. He naturally knew about this matter. After Zen Master Dade entered Xianmen Tianzong, he contributed a lot. When Lin Feng and his disciple were killed in the ancestral land, Zen Master Dade helped to stop the Shi family's head, Shi Wu. After Xianmen Tianzong took control of the Xiantian realm, Zen Master Dade had been guarding there. After that, during the battle to destroy the Xiantian realm, he even helped the Supreme Elder of Shushan to remove the falling rocks and get injured. Monk Dekong continued, all these years, Senior Brother Dade has been looking for other people from the same sect in the past. This poor monk received news that he has recently gotten in touch with another of this poor monk's senior brother, Zen Master Danning. Danning? Liang Pan's expression didn't change. I remember that he was the great Thunderclap Monastery's Sutra Depository's first seat in the past, right? He's also an eminent monk of the Golden Body second level like you. Back then, he was regarded as the person who could reach the Buddhist Golden Body third level the fastest. Monk Dekong nodded. Senior Brother Danning's cultivation is even higher than this poor monk's. He's obsessed with Dharma and usually guards the Sutra Depository. He doesn't care about worldly affairs and wholeheartedly wants to restore the Vairocana Sutra. Back then, he didn't really agree with the abbot's thoughts and had a good relationship with this poor monk. But he's still brooding over the destruction of the great Thunderclap Monastery. This poor monk has been in contact with him all these years. Over the years, his attitude has softened a lot. But this time, Senior Brother Dade has found him, adding a lot of variables for no reason. After thinking about it, Liang Pan shook his head slightly. Don't stop him. Let him be for the time being. I believe that Zen Master Danning will not make a decision in a short time. After this, tell him about the 2 golden bodies of the Buddha's disciples in our dynasty. With these golden bodies, it'll be more beneficial for him to restore the Vairocana Sutra. Monk Dekong put his palms together. This poor monk obeys. At this moment, on the top of White Cloud Mountain, a few figures were moving. The person in the lead was an old man with his eyes closed. He was Taoist Lord. Opposite him was an old man with white hair and beard. It was Shoichi Dashin. At this moment, Shoichi Dashin's body was flashing with a mysterious and indescribable Taishu mystic light. Taoist Lord's hand seals were constantly changing. His expression was slightly solemn, as if he was trying something. Chapter 1046. Taoist Lord Tai's hand seals kept changing, but they were scattered and disorderly. If anyone in the entire Tianyuan Great World saw this scene, they would be shocked. Taoist Lord Tai, who could speak and move at will at this moment, was like a Qi refinement cultivator who had just learned Tao techniques and magical powers. He seemed inexperienced, immature, and even a little clumsy. That's right, if one had to find an adjective to describe Taoist Lord Tai's current appearance, it would be clumsy. However, Shoichi Dashin, who was in front of Taoist Lord Tai, did not have the slightest intention of laughing at his senior brother. At this moment, his expression was even more serious than Taoist Lord Tai's. Taoist Lord Tai's magic power landed on Shoichi Dashin's Taishu mystic light, but it did not even cause a splash. There was no reaction at all. After a long time, Taoist Lord Tai stopped what he was doing. His eyes were still closed, but his snow-white eyebrows were furrowed. Shoichi Dashin also had the same expression. He slowly asked, "Even Senior Brother Tai can't figure out the mystery of it?" "No, I have no clue." Taoist Lord Tai shook his head. However, as Junior Brother Tai said, this method and the method that the master of Taoist Xianmen used to shake the Taishu temple come from the same source. He looked at the heavy clouds that shrouded the top of the mountain in front of him and sighed. The master of Taoist Xianmen has gone further and further on this dangerous path, shaking the Taishu temple and targeting the Taishu mystic light in our temple. It's hard to say whether these are intentional or unintentional, but even if it's a coincidence, it will continue to develop in the long run. A faint look of worry appeared on Taoist Lord Tai's calm face. I wonder if the master of Taoist Xianmen has a master? If this Tao technique was created by him, then he really is a peerless talent. However, this talent of his is used in an extremely dangerous way. Shoichi Daishin did not say anything when he heard this. 3 light figures appeared beside the two of them. They were Yen Nanlai, Taoist Master Qingyi, and Taoist Master Xianyi. Grand One Supremacy looked at them. All of you, come and take a look. After listening to the whole story, Yen Nanlai and the other two fell into silence. After a while, Tao Lord Qingyi slowly said, I suggest that the position of the Celestial Sect Master and Xianmen Tianzong be adjusted from unstable to disadvantageous. The others did not say anything. After a moment of silence, the Grand One's Supremacy said, Let's make a decision after the war between the two realms. The Yudu race still exists, the Tenryu Gen has experienced the calamity, and the undercurrents in the Divine Land are surging. As for what will happen in the war between the two worlds, even we can't completely control it now. Upon hearing this, everyone fell silent. Slowly, Tao Master Qingyi nodded. Senior Brother Tai is right. She turned to look at Shoichi Daishin and said, Senior Brother Shuchi once said that the formation diagram of the 9 light sky shattering formation was severely damaged by the astral turbulence, right? Shoichi Daishin nodded, then shook his head. It was indeed severely damaged. However, the Celestial Sect Master is a formation master, so he might have the means to repair it. No matter what his personal opinion was, Shoichi Daishin still gave an objective evaluation of Lin Feng. This formation is extraordinary, but the treasures used to set it are too hard to find, Tao Lord Xianyi said. Back then, Senior Brother Tai had deduced from the outer fragments of the formation diagram that Nanlai had brought back. If one of the 9 treasures used to set the formation isn't as good as the other 8, it will severely affect the power of the formation. Yen Nanlai muttered, speaking of which, the Celestial Sect Master's life and death formation doesn't seem to have this disadvantage. Tao Lord Xianyi shook his head and said, There are thousands of great Daos in the world, and each has its own mysteries. After all, they are 2 completely different formations. However, it won't be easy for his life and death formation to reach the peak level, and it's impossible for his 9 light sky shattering formation to reach the peak level. We have both celestial water and celestial earth treasures. We can take the crystallized celestial spring of the mother of all water, the Tiani true water, as the water treasure. We can also take the fragments that were scattered when the vast 1,000 worlds were split into the divine land and the infinite wasteland. As the celestial earth treasure, the Tianyuan stone is of the highest quality. Tao Lord Xianyi frowned slightly and said, But it's hard to say for the others. For the celestial sun treasure, it's best if it's a Mahayana magic treasure refined with the solar true fire or the solar divine light, or the golden crow's skeleton at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the celestial wood treasure, it's best if it's the tree heart of the 4 great spirit trees in the world, and it's only at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the celestial fire treasure, it's best if it's the origin fire of the pure yang true fire, or the heart of the phoenix at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the Kidu treasure, it's best if it's a Mahayana magic treasure refined with the inheritance of the ancient Dark Emperor. The dark mirror of the shadow diabolism of the Middle Ages is very suitable, but it was completely annihilated in the Middle Age. For the celestial gold treasure, it's best if it's the soul essence of the polar magnetism. However, it's nourished by nature and cannot be activated by humans. It only appears once every 10,000 years, and the last time it appeared was 6,000 years ago. It'll take at least 4,000 years for it to appear again. Tao Lord Xian Yi shook his head and said, "There's still a way to think about these things. The Tao of the solar true fire and the solar divine light, and the shadow diabolism are not extinct yet. Although we don't have a Mahayana magic treasure now, there's still hope. There's no news about the ginseng fruit tree, but the Longhuan jade tree, sorrow iron tree, and the divine parasol tree are not extinct yet. The golden crow and the phoenix are not extinct either. As for the soul essence of the polar magnetism, we just have to wait for 4,000 years." But slowly Yen Nanlai, who was standing beside him, said, "But it's hard to find the top treasures of Rahu and Moon. The dark solitary dark beast is almost extinct. There hasn't been a single dark solitary dark beast for many years. As for its skeleton, it's extremely rare to find a dark solitary dark beast with an indestructible demon soul, and it's impossible to find a dark solitary dark beast with an infusion of star and soul. The ore core of the radiant moon soul stone is also completely extinct. Currently, all the radiant moon soul stone mines in the great heaven primordial world are dead mines without ore cores. They only produce ores, but no ore core can be found." Lord Xian once said, "These two are completely gone, but the treasures of the sunlight, wood, fire, K2, and gold obsidian are also very difficult to find. Not to mention the fact that the soul essence of the polar magnetism will only appear in 4,000 years. It'll take a long time to refine the Mahayana-level treasures for the sunlight and K2 stars. No one knows when it'll be completed. If we don't use these treasures and replace them with inferior treasures, the power of the formation will be greatly reduced. The treasures used by evil Qi Qiongqi are actually very good. According to senior brother Shoichi, there was even the heart of the Longhuan jade tree. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in the star ocean turbulence." Lord Tai shook his head and said, "The nine-glory sky-shattering formation is a formation. The slightest mistake can lead to a huge error." Shoichi Daishin said, "The master of the celestial gate should have the origin fire of the pure yang true fire and the heart of the divine Wudong tree of the unity of star and soul in the past. Among the treasures he used to set up his yin and yang life and death formation, there seems to be an earth-type treasure, but it's hard to say whether it's comparable to the Tianyuan stone. Actually, the most suitable treasure for the K2 treasure is the desolate K2 treasure refined by the Dark Emperor of the Archean epoch. It was only one step away from becoming a creation realm treasure. The Dark Emperor was killed by the Dragon Clan's absolute sovereign Xianshang, and the desolate K2 treasure was completely destroyed. The K2 spirit spring that the Dark Emperor used to refine the desolate K2 treasure was taken away by the absolute sovereign Xianshang and moved into the mysterious sea. The crystallization of the K2 spirit spring can also be used as the K2 treasure of the nine-glory sky-shattering formation. Shoichi Daishin said indifferently, "If the master of the celestial gate is willing to enter the mysterious sea to search for the K2 spirit spring, that would naturally be the best. He is also destined to not be able to find the solitary dark skeleton at the realm of radiant moon soul stone or core and star soul fusion realm. The heavenly pure water crystal is already a problem for him. Finding other top-notch treasures is also not something that can be done in a short period of time, not to mention that he still needs to repair the formation diagram." The others nodded. The Taoist High Lord looked towards the northwest sky and said, "Although there is indeed no need to worry for now, the Master of the Celestial Gate is not an ordinary person. He has already given us and the heaven primal world too many surprises." Yen Nanlai, Shoichi Daishin, Taoist Master Qingwan, and Taoist Master Xianwan were all silent. The Taoist High Lord waved his hand and said, "Everything will be carried out according to the original plan for now. This old man and junior brother Jingyi will try again." The other three nodded, and the light and shadow projected by their magic power disappeared. The Taoist High Lord began his own deduction again, and Shoichi Daishin also focused his mind to help him. Unfortunately, after a long time, the two still could not grasp the main point. After a long time, the two old men's calm expressions became somewhat complicated. They sighed at the same time and said, "Could it be that the Celestial Gates method is really above our Taoist method?" Both Tianjing City and White Cloud Mountain were surging with undercurrents. At this moment, Lin Feng had already returned to his own Yujing Mountain. After returning to the mountain, he received news that Zen Master Dade had come to visit. "Sect Master, this old monk's junior brother Daning wants to read the Buddhist classics collected by our sect. I hope to get your permission." Zen Master Dade explained the purpose of his visit. Although Lin Feng had said in the past that all the Buddhist classics were under his management, they were, after all, collected by Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong. Moreover, they were all in Xianmen Tianzong's sutra depository. Whether it was bringing the sutras out or bringing people in, it was necessary to ask for Lin Feng's permission. Zen Master Dade was a kind person and stood aloof from worldly affairs. However, as a person who was not involved in worldly affairs, he was not ignorant of worldly affairs. He had always been able to put himself in the right position. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. "I have said in the past that these Buddhist classics are under your management, Master. Speaking of which, in recent years, Master has been magnanimous and allowed our sect's disciples to read many Buddhist classics. I should be the one thanking you." "Amitba, Sect Master, you are exaggerating. If it weren't for you, I don't know when I would be able to collect many classics again." Zen Master Dade smiled. "I won't bring junior brother Daning up the mountain. I'll go to the Sutra Depository to take some classics for him. Junior brother Daning has been wandering outside all these years. It was only recently that I got in touch with him. After knowing that our sect has collected all the 5 directions Buddha Sutras, except for the Mahavairokanapam, he intends to join our sect. I hope Sect Master will allow it." Zen Master Dade sighed. Junior brother Daning's lifelong ambition is to reappear the complete Mahavairocana Sutra. Lin Feng smiled and said, "If that's the case, I welcome you." Zen Master Dade put his palms together. "Thank you, Sect Master. I will take my leave." After bidding farewell to Lin Feng, he went to the Sutra Depository. Just as he came to the door, he felt an unusual mental fluctuation. Chapter 1047. The mental fluctuations in the Scripture Tower were not sharp and fierce, but they were infinitely profound, as if they contained endless mysteries. They naturally exuded an unchangeable, all-controlling, all-knowing feeling. Zen Master Dade couldn't be more familiar with these fluctuations, so much so that he could faintly feel them before he even approached the Scripture Tower. The Tao of Karma? Zen Master Dade was slightly surprised. Is it the sect master's third disciple, Wang Lin, or the second disciple, Zhu Yi? His understanding of the Tao of Karma has already reached a very deep level. There was no aura of magic power flowing out of his body, but when his Zen consciousness came into contact with the mental fluctuations, the people in the Scripture Tower naturally sensed it. The mental fluctuations suddenly retracted, and Wang Lin's voice sounded in Zen Master Dade's ears. "Zen Master Dade, please come in." Zen Master Dade pushed open the door and entered the Scripture Tower. He went straight to the 3rd floor and said with a smile, "Benefactor Wang's attainments in the Tao of Karma have become more profound." But seeing that Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Shi Tianhao were also here, the old monk couldn't help but feel somewhat puzzled. "Benefactors, this is..." Xiao Yan coughed and said, "Master, we are studying the Buddhist Tao of Karma together and have some immature ideas." Shi Tianhao also nodded. "That's right, immature, very immature." Wang Lin and Zhu Yi stood to the side and didn't express any objections. They both looked at Zen Master Dade with a faint smile. But their appearance caused Zen Master Dade's heart to beat like a drum. Because the 4 proud sons of heaven in front of him were all extremely confident people. Their current abnormal appearance caused Zen Master Dade to faintly have a bad premonition. Thinking back to Wang Lin's deduction of the Tao of Karma, Zen Master Dade suddenly thought of something that had always been on his mind. 5 years ago in the vast thousand worlds, during the battle of exterminating Xian, although he had already been injured by the falling rocks, when the enemies attacked Mount Yujing, he still persisted in fighting with his injuries. Wang Lin and the others quickly returned to the battlefield and were trapped by the reincarnation sect master, Shi Tianfang. It was only when Wang Lin became a nascent soul cultivator that he managed to turn the situation around. However, it was during that battle that Wang Lin used a divine ability to restrain Shi Tianfang's red karmic lotus. At that time, the battle was chaotic, and Zen Master Dade himself had an opponent to deal with. As a bystander, he couldn't see it clearly, but he faintly felt that the divine art was related to the Tao of Karma, but it was different. Over the years, Zen Master Dade had never specifically asked Wang Lin about this question. This was because he had a faint premonition that the outcome of this matter would be extremely disadvantageous to him. This matter was buried in the bottom of Zen Master Dade's heart, and no one else knew about it. Usually, even if Zen Master Dade chose to forget about it, he now felt that what Xiao Yan and the others were going to tell him might be related to what happened in the past. Xiao Yan and the others were also slightly perturbed, but during the time when Lin Feng left the mountain for Yingxi, they carefully studied for a long time together and had a deeper understanding of the Buddhist Tao of Karma. The original idea had gradually matured. Zen Master Dade might still be shocked if he knew about it, but the consequences should not be too serious. If Zen Master Dade could straighten out his thoughts and verify with each other, it might be possible to go a step further and understand a new world. Zen Master Dade was also the person with the highest cultivation of Buddhism that they could come into contact with. If he could also join them, he would definitely make a huge contribution to the dialectical sublimation of the Buddhist Tao of Karma. Zen Master Dade calmed himself down, took a deep breath, and said slowly, "Benefactor Xiao, you can speak frankly. Although I am dull, I have studied Buddhism for many years. Maybe I can give some suggestions." After Xiao Yan and the others looked at each other, Wang Lin said, "Master, I asked you about the Buddhist Tao of Karma in the past. Later, I learned something, but in the subsequent cultivation process, I had a lot of different views. Some of them are my own personal experiences, and some are things that happened to others." Wang Lin tirelessly recounted the discussion with Xiao Yan and the others. "In addition to my own personal experiences, we also went down the mountain to verify some rumors. Except for the things that are too ancient and cannot be verified, we have verified everything that can be verified. There are many false rumors, and some bizarre rumors do have internal reasons. They can be hidden from others, but not from us." Slowly, Wang Lin said, "But there are also some things that, like my own personal experience when I was young, cannot be explained by karma. Such things are not rare." He looked at Zen Master Dade. "In fact, just that incident of mine is enough to prove that using the Tao of Karma to determine the cause and development of everything in the world, the past, the present, and the future, is not feasible. At least, it is not complete. The Tao of Karma is not the supreme great Tao. It is not the only truth in the world. It is not the heavenly Tao, nor is it the foundation of creation. It is not the eternal of all things in the world." After Wang Lin finished speaking, Xiao Yan and the others looked at Zen Master Dade. Zen Master Dade's expression was calm, and he said unhurriedly, "Benefactor Wang, this old monk has lived for so many years, and it is not that I have not heard of the situation you speak of. Our Buddhist sect has existed for tens of thousands of years. In such a long time, it is not that we have not seen similar things. In the past generations of eminent monks, there were also people who had doubts about this, and they carefully investigated the reason." Zen Master Dade put his palms together. "Some things have been investigated clearly. As Benefactor Wang said, it is a false rumor, or the knowledge of the people of the world is limited, and thus there is a misunderstanding. Some things are still unclear, but it is precisely because of this that the mystery of karma is manifested. We live in the world of mortals, and our supernatural powers are no match for karma. There are many things that we cannot understand even if we exhaust ourselves. It is not that the truth does not exist, but that we cannot see through it. There was a faint Buddhist aura flowing around Zen Master Dade, revealing the wisdom of realization. Although he was pleasant and calm in front of Wang Lin, Xiao Yan, and the others, he would never reveal the aura of Buddhist aura. At this moment, his attitude was still friendly, but there was no doubt that he was much more serious. The matter they were discussing involved his lifelong belief, the foundation of a Zen heart. Even in the face of the people of Xianmen Tianzong, it was impossible for him to waver. This had nothing to do with the respect he had for Wang Lin, Xiao Yan, and the others, and even for Lin Feng, but the attitude of an eminent monk who could reach the second level of the golden body of Buddhism. Xiao Yan and the others did not care about this at all. Asking about the path was a matter of course. Just like the knowledge of the people of the world is limited, so some of the truth will be misrepresented, and the facts that should be clear in the cause and effect will become bizarre. Zen Master Dade said silently, as cultivators, what we know and what we have, our ability and magical power are far beyond that of the mortals, but we are not omniscient and omnipotent. We are also groping on the path to explore the truth of the world, and there are also things that we do not understand and do not understand. Even if we do not understand the reason, it does not mean that the reason is wrong. Zen Master Dade shook his head gently. There are thousands of great ways in the world, and each is different. This is true, but the myriad changes lead to the same destination, and in the end they all return to the same path. Many people refer to the heavenly way, but in my opinion the heavenly way is also an object, a will, a void, and also a cause and effect. The so-called heavenly way is the way of cause and effect. There are many great ways in the world. How to understand and understand these thousands of reasons? As long as it exists in this world, it is already a layer of cause and effect. Cause and effect is the way, and also the angle from which we understand this world of creation. From cause there must be effect, and with effect there must be cause. Therefore we can analyze, understand the reason and state of affairs of all things in this world. Wang Lin nodded. Master is wise, I understand what you mean, but since we do not understand the reason, how can we know whether it is right or wrong? Master, please look. Wang Lin's finger gently sketched a flat stone that was like a mirror in the void. Its surface was smooth, and it reflected a person's shadow. Zen Master Dade stared at the stone, carefully trying to understand the concept within. After a moment, he was astonished. Even though it is only the first inkling, it is actually similar to our temple's 3 lives karma curse, as if it comes from the same source. Benefactor Wang is truly an extraordinary talent. Just by watching and reading Buddhist scriptures, you can comprehend the way of cause and effect to this extent, and even integrate it into your own cultivation of Tao. Zen Master Dade sighed. If you practice Buddhist Dharma, you will also be a person with great wisdom. Wang Lin said, Master, you flatter me. Please take a look at this. He put away the divine power of the 3 lives stone, and then revealed the divine power of the realm of karma. Zen Master Dade saw the open gate of karma. He saw a ray of light appearing in a spot of light at the door, extending to another spot of light, and then using that as the starting point, it continued to extend to the next spot of light. He nodded repeatedly. Karma thread, the starting point was the cause, and the ending point was the effect. With cause, there must be an effect. Once something started, it would continue all the way, changing continuously. When it stopped, there would be a result. In the next moment, the gate of the realm of karma closed with a loud bang. The light that continued from the end point retreated back to the previous starting point, and then back to the previous starting point, and so on, until it finally returned to the origin of everything. The past created the future, and with an effect, there must be a cause. The result of the future could be traced back to a cause in the past. Zen Master Dade turned to look at Wang Lin, and Wang Lin said in a deep voice, "Master, please stabilize your mind." The gate of karma opened again, and the light once again extended from the starting point. The light stopped, and its ending point condensed into a second spot of light. From the second spot of light, a second line of light extended, and when the light stopped, a third spot of light appeared. While Zen Master Dade was puzzled, his eyes suddenly widened. Because he saw that in Wang Lin's realm of karma, a fourth spot of light had appeared. It was a completely isolated spot of light, and it had no connection with the third spot of light, and it was not connected to anything else. "You!" Zen Master Dade suddenly turned to look at Wang Lin. Because of the importance of this matter, he had placed all his attention on Wang Lin's spell. The things in the realm of karma were not real and tangible things, but the manifestation of the principles within. Therefore, the appearance of this spot of light was not something that Wang Lin had done, or created with his own mana with other spells, but the result of the realm of karma itself. According to the explanation of the realm of karma, an object would appear out of thin air without any cause. The first spot of light in the realm of karma was at the gate of karma. Only this spot of light was created by Wang Lin's spell. Although it was the starting point of everything, the first spot of light also had a cause, which was the gate of karma itself. And the fourth spot of light did not have a cause. Chapter 1048. No cause and no effect, no cause and no effect. Wang Lin's world of karma had produced such a scene. This was the result of the deduction of the principles contained in the divine art of Taoism, and not the image of the transformation of illegal forces. Zen Master Dade's attention had always been on Wang Lin's world of karma. If it was a real battle, he was no longer Wang Lin's opponent. However, his understanding of the Tao of karma was so profound that Wang Lin could not hide it from him. Moreover, there was no need for Wang Lin to deceive him, and there was no need for him to deliberately destroy and humiliate the foundation of Buddhism. Zen Master Dade looked at Wang Lin. "What is going on? How did you do it?" Wang Lin did not speak, but turned to look at Shi Tianhao. "Let junior brother explain. It is the result of his comprehension of our sect's Taoism, and my comprehension of the Tao of karma." Shi Tianhao answered, "Simply put, it is the correspondence between spirit and reality, the intersection of emotions and scenes in an instant, the coincidence between what one thinks and what happens." Zen Master Dade's brows furrowed even tighter. Shi Tianhao looked at him and slowly said, "The world created by the emotions of the heart and the world that exists in the outside world overlapped at the same time. This overlap is very difficult to explain with karma. Because of the overlap of the inner and outer worlds, such a coincidence appeared?" Shi Tianhao shook his head. "Then it becomes karma for karma's sake. In reality, the combination of the inner and outer worlds is essentially one with those bizarre things. It is both cause and effect, no cause and no effect, and no cause and no effect." After Wang Lin put away the world of karma, he said, "If karma is the Tao of fate, then Junior calls this principle that is independent of karma the Tao of defying fate. Defying does not mean rebelling and overthrowing, but going against the original principle, meaning that cannot be explained by the original principle." He looked at Zen Master Dade. "Junior has only just touched the surface of this truth. I still need to carefully study it." Monk Dade seemed to have aged a lot in an instant, but the Buddha light around his body gradually became dazzling and incomparably pure. It was precisely the marvel of the infinite light Rulai Sutra. Neither cause nor effect. Neither cause nor effect. Without cause, how can there be effect? Zen Master Dade muttered to himself. He suddenly raised his head to look at Wang Lin. "Your supernatural power," Wang Lin seemed to understand what he meant and nodded calmly. You're right. The foundation of my magical arts itself may have major errors, so it's very likely that I can't keep up with the principles of deduction and explanation, but, after a slight pause, Wang Lin continued softly, but, no matter how hard Junior tried, I couldn't cast the 3 live stone when explaining the path of defying fate in the causality realm. The Buddha light around Zen Master Dade suddenly trembled. Although Wang Lin didn't finish his words, he already understood what he meant. The Tao of Karma's Tao of Fate and the Tao of Defying Fate were independent and even completely opposed to each other. If Wang Lin could completely understand these two principles and finally make them converge into a unity of opposites, then he could naturally cast the 3 live stone and the world of karma at the same time. It was even more likely that he could go one step further and combine the Tao of Fate and Tao of Defying Fate, evolving into a more profound magical art. Before that, it was very difficult for the opposing sides to coexist. But it was also because of this that, from a certain point of view, it was confirmed that there was indeed another kind of great Tao that was opposed to the Tao of Karma. The Tao of Fate was not completely the Tao of Karma, but the Tao of Fate was on the verge of collapse, causing the Tao of Karma to also be shaken. The Buddhism's idea that karma was the only truth, the supreme great Tao, and could explain all the mysteries of the past, present, and future of the entire world of creation was really shaken at this moment. Before today, although the Buddhism had never dominated the universe, and although the Taishu Temple's great Tao of Taishu was known as the Tao scripture closest to the heavenly Tao in the divine land, the Buddhist cultivators had always believed that all the principles in the universe could eventually be reduced to karma. The Taishu Temple's great Tao of Taishu, Mount Shu Sword Sex Khanate Sword Aura, Heavenly Gates Grand Heavenly Tao, Primordial Devil Scripture of the Primordial Devil Cult. Even the demon race's innate magical arts and many secret techniques could actually be explained by karma. The Tao of Karma was the heavenly Tao. It was just that because people's cultivation was not enough, they could not truly understand everything. Even the Gautama Buddha could not completely transcend, because he was in the mortal world and his magical arts were no match for karma. And if one could completely understand the Tao of Karma one day, it would be the day that one could transcend the boundless sea of suffering and the nirvana realm. This was the common Zen heart of the Buddhist cultivators, but at this moment, Zen Master Dade was really confused. The Buddhist aura emitted from his body was getting brighter, but it was also getting more and more unstable. If the people in front of him were not Xiao Yan, Wang Lin, and the others, the Buddhist aura that Zen Master Dade unconsciously emitted was enough to purify and devour most of the cultivators below the primordial spirit realm. When the Tempest Temple was destroyed, I could still calm my mind and subdue my inner demons. But now, my beer is covered in dust, and evil thoughts are growing. After a long while, Zen Master Dade smiled bitterly and shook his head. I have sinned, I have sinned. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao all looked solemn. Zhu Yi said, Master, I'm sorry, we brothers did not mean to offend or criticize the Buddhist sect. It's just that there can be no construction without destruction. The Tao of the world will eventually be clear, and what should come will come. To truly transcend the nirvana realm, the only way is to identify the path. Otherwise, the path will become narrower and narrower, and we will sink deeper and deeper into the sea of suffering. Zen Master Dade calmed himself down, looked at them and asked, Have you reported your gains to the sect master? What did he say? The 4 brothers looked at each other, and Xiao Yan answered, A long time ago, I reported it to my master. At that time, I only had some doubts and ideas, but now that I have some clues, I have not reported it to my master. Zen Master Dade looked at Xiao Yan. What did the sect master say at that time? Master did not comment. He only asked us to explore it ourselves. After Xiao Yan finished, Zen Master Dade did not feel relaxed at all, and the bitter smile on his face became more serious. Could it be that the sect master already knew? Xiao Yan and the other three were silent, and Zen Master Dade shook his head repeatedly. Don't worry, my Zen heart will not be broken. Although it is difficult for me to accept your description of fate and defying fate, I am ashamed to say it. The old monk smiled faintly. A monk does not lie. During the battle of destroying Xian, I saw Benefactor Wang's karma realm from afar. Although I did not understand it, I had a faint premonition in my heart. I didn't expect it to come true today. He sighed. It is because of that day that I have some preparations. After listening to what you said today, I can still control myself, or else the situation would be even worse, and I might directly go berserk, and my Zen heart might be completely broken. Zen Master Dade walked out of the depository of scriptures shakily. The Buddhist Almighty of the second level of the Golden Body Realm was actually a little unsteady at this moment, and his figure was hunched. Although his Zen heart was not completely broken, Zen Master Dade's situation was also very bad. The Dharma body of the infinite light Rulai was faintly discernible, but it was covered with cracks, like a porcelain that had suffered a heavy blow and could break into pieces at any time. Xiao Yan went forward, but he did not say anything, and only played the role of an escort. The obstacle in front of him depended on Zen Master Dade himself. If he could pass through it, he might be able to break through and then rebuild. If he couldn't, the Dharma body of Rulai would be broken, and falling back to the first level of the Golden Body Realm would already be the best outcome. In terms of Tao, the Tao of Karma was not filled with fallacies. On the contrary, it was a very profound concept. However, for the concept of the Buddhist cultivators, the impact today was too huge. The more profound the Dharma and the higher the cultivation, the easier it was for them to fall into the heart barrier and not be able to break free. They would have strong self-doubt, which would lead to strong doubts about the Tao of Karma. From one point to the whole surface, from one point to the unreasonable point, they would then question whether there was a fallacy in the whole. The wavering of the belief required the cultivator to rebuild it themselves. From the beginning, they had to interrogate the Tao heart and Zen heart bit by bit to eliminate doubt. After stabilizing their state of mind, they would face the initial heart barrier again and then dispel it. If they couldn't dispel it, then it would be another reincarnation, and everything would start from the beginning again. In this process, if something went wrong, then it would truly be beyond redemption, and many years of hard work would go down the drain. The Tao of the world was generally like this. The more profound the Tao, the more serious the consequences of the broken Tao heart, because the heart barrier was very difficult to dispel. The Taishu Temple's supreme Wang Qing Tao was an exception. Cultivators who cultivated other Tao techniques could still turn to cultivate other Tao techniques if their Tao heart was broken, but the cultivators who cultivated the supreme Wang Qing Tao with a broken Tao heart would cut off other paths to advance. Almsgiver Xiao, please go back. I'm fine. I want to go down the mountain and take a walk in the secular world to see all kinds of people. Zen Master Dade waved his hand. Xiao Yan shook his head and said, Junior will accompany Master. Zen Master Dade smiled and said, There's no need for that. Almsgiver Xiao, you don't have to worry about me. I won't leave the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain. The furthest I'll go is Sand Continent City. Since he insisted, Xiao Yan could only take his leave. After saying goodbye to Xiao Yan, Zen Master Dade arrived at Sand Continent City and looked at the people coming and going on both sides of the street. After a long time, he sighed and went to the top of a small mountain at the edge of the Kunlun Mountain area outside the city. Silently, he looked at all the things in the world in front of him. However, his eyes, which had always been calm and full of wisdom, were filled with confusion. Although Zen Master Dade looked like an old man, his eyes were black and bright. They were lustrous and didn't look old at all. However, at this moment, his eyes were as turbid as an old man in his twilight years. Fate. Defying fate. Neither cause nor effect. Heaven and earth's creation, all things in the world, what principles do they follow? There are thousands of great Taos, do they return to one? If this great Tao isn't cause and effect, what is it? The Buddhist light on Zen Master Dade's body surged and fluctuated violently. The Buddhist light condensed into a huge Dharmakaya of Buddha. It was golden in color and emitted red light. It sat on a lotus and a full moon. The throne below it was carried by 8 peacocks. Its right hand held a lotus and its left hand held a bell. It was the image of Amitabha Buddha. This Buddha's body emitted a bright light that illuminated the world. However, at this moment, the Dharmakaya of Buddha that Zen Master Dade manifested was constantly twisting and fluctuating. It didn't have a trace of the true meaning of immortality. The surface of its body was densely packed with cracks like a spider web. The void opened and an old monk appeared. When he saw Zen Master Dade, he couldn't help but turn pale with fright. "Senior Brother Dade, what happened to you?" Chapter 1049. Zen Master Dade's body didn't move as he sat on the peak of the mountain. However, the infinite light Tathagata Dharma body above his head was constantly twisting and swaying, and the densely packed cracks were still expanding. The old monk had just appeared when he saw this scene, and he couldn't help but be shocked. Without saying anything, he put his palms together, and Buddhist light also surged above his head. The Buddhist light above the old monk's head condensed into a huge ancient Buddha. It was pure gold and emitted a blue light. It sat on a throne carried by 8 elephants, holding a Vajra scepter and a bell. It was the immovable Tathagata Dharma body obtained from cultivating the immovable Tathagata scripture. Freeze! Following the old monk's shout, the Buddhist light of the immovable Tathagata Dharma body enveloped Zen Master Dade. However, his actions were powerless to stop Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body from shaking as if it would shatter at any moment. He wasn't injured by someone, but Senior Brother Dade's own Zen heart was shaken. But how is this possible? The old monk's brows furrowed, and his hands formed a seal. The immovable Tathagata Dharma body above his head did the same. In the next moment, a strange and profound seal formed and landed on Zen Master Dade's body. Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body suddenly stopped on the verge of shattering. The seal formed by the old monk was the most profound and top seal of the immovable Tathagata scripture, the immovable Venerable's hidden myriad technique foundation seal. Being suppressed by this seal, Zen Master Dade's Tathagata Dharma body stabilized slightly, but the confusion in his eyes became more and more intense. Without understanding karma, how can I talk about myriad techniques? I can't see my nature, so how can I not move? But other than karma, is there anything else? The old monk was shocked. Senior Brother Dade, what are you saying? Before he finished speaking, Zen Master Dade gave a fierce snort, and the infinite light Tathagata Dharma body that had stabilized suddenly shattered. It was originally daytime, but at this moment, endless light illuminated the world. Within a radius of more than 1,000 miles, all living beings could only see white light, unable to see anything else. The mountain peak beneath Zen Master Dade directly turned into nothing. If not for the old monk's protection, the surrounding mountains would have been destroyed as well. The light dissipated, and the blankness in Zen Master Dade's eyes temporarily faded, but the old monk's face was full of sorrow and shock. Because Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body was completely shattered. The cultivation of this Buddhist monk had fallen from the second level of the Golden Body realm to the first level of the Golden Body realm. At this time, Zen Master Dade seemed to come back to his senses. He looked at the old monk in front of him and smiled bitterly. Junior Brother Danning, you've worked hard just now. Senior Brother, what's going on? Zen Master Daning looked at Zen Master Dade in disbelief. Your Zen heart was shaken just now. Master. Zen Master Dade sighed and said, Junior Martial Brother, don't ask, I can handle it myself. I just said that I wanted to help you get the scripture book, but in a moment of absent-mindedness, I forgot. Wait for me here for a moment, I'll be back soon. Monk Daning frowned deeply. He looked at Monk Dade and asked in a deep voice, Senior brother, you have always had a clear mind and a pure mind. Among your peers, your aptitude was only below average, but your mind cultivation was one of the best. Even though your advancement speed isn't fast, every step you take is extremely stable. Even though Big Sky and I advance very quickly and are thought to be the fastest to advance to the third level of the Golden Body Realm, I've always thought that when I look back many years later, Senior Brother Dada's final achievements might be even higher than mine and Big Sky's. I heard that you achieved the second level of the Golden Body Realm and cultivated the infinite light Rulai Dharma body. I was planning to congratulate you. At this point, Zen Master Daning was furious. But what is going on now? Your Zen heart is actually shaken and on the verge of shattering, and even your Buddha's Dharma body is destroyed? Zen Master Dade shook his head. I'm fine. You don't have to worry. This is a challenge in my cultivation, and I'll be fine once I get through it. Zen Master Daning snorted. This difficulty can't happen for no reason. You weren't injured by someone. Something big must have happened to shake Zen Master Dade's heart. His gaze froze, and he turned to look at the depths of Kunlun Mountain. You don't want me to intervene. Is it related to Xianmen Tianzong? Zen Master Dade said, Master, don't guess. A monk doesn't lie. Master, don't lie to me. Zen Master Dade said in a low voice, Someone broke your Zen heart, and he must have shaken the foundation of my Dharma. You should know that I can't ignore this. Before the fall of the Big Lane Temple, he was the president of the Sutras Depository. He devoted his whole life to organizing Buddhist scriptures, promoting Dharma, and trying to recreate the lost Mahavairokkana Sutra so that the 5 Directions Vairocana Sutra could be collected again. For Zen Master Dade Ning, the Buddhist scriptures were the most important thing, and also his obsession. If he could break this obsession, he would have a bright future with his cultivation and attainments in Dharma. The seniors of the Big Lane Temple had warned him about this, and even Zen Master Dade in front of him had warned him about it. Zen Master Dade Ning himself was well aware of this, but he had no regrets. Zen Master Dade Ning stared at Zen Master Dade Ning. Master, if you don't tell me, I'll find Xianmen Tianzong myself. Zen Master Dade Ning smiled bitterly. It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I don't want to drag you down before I figure it out. You're afraid that my Zen heart will be broken? Zen Master Dade Ning's pupils contracted slightly, and his expression became more solemn. You should know that my belief in the Dharma of our temple is the strongest. Because of this, if you want to break my Zen heart, you must fundamentally. At this point, Zen Master Dade Ning suddenly couldn't go on. There was understanding in his eyes, but also anger. The people of Xianmen Tianzong question the way of karma of Buddhism? Zen Master Dade Ning was silent. Zen Master Dade Ning only felt that he was so angry. Even the Taishu Temple can't question the way of karma of Buddhism. This Xianmen Tianzong, he calmed down. Is it the master of Xianmen Gate? Zen Master Dade sighed. No, it's his 4 strongest personal disciples. They have comprehended the Tao of karma and gained a different understanding. Zen Master Dade Ning frowned even more. These juniors practice Xianmen Tianzong's Dharma. Their supernatural powers are amazing, but how much knowledge can they have on the great Tao? He looked at Zen Master Dade Ning. But if they didn't have a substantial discovery, according to your mind, Senior Brother Dade, you shouldn't be shaken. What did they tell you? Zen Master Dade Ning just shook his head. Zen Master Dade Ning said loudly, Senior Brother, do you want me to go to Xianmen Tianzong by myself and distinguish the scriptures from them? Daning, your state of mind is now in chaos. Zen Master Dade Ning said in a low voice. Zen Master Dade Ning looked at him. Senior brother, tell me, or I will go to Xianmen Tianzong by myself. After a long silence, Zen Master Dade Ning flicked his fingers. His mana turned into light and shadow. It showed the process of discussing Tao with Wang Lin and the others. The light and shadow left behind could show the previous process completely and faithfully. Zen Master Dade Ning was not worried that Zen Master Dade Ning would cheat him. His current realm and strength were above Zen Master Dade Ning, so he could tell at a glance whether it was true or not. But as time passed, Zen Master Dade Ning's eyes became more and more dull. Impossible. Impossible. Neither cause nor effect. How can such a thing exist? There must be something wrong with his dharma. But the two can't coexist. How can this be explained? Is it a lie? It must be, it must be. But fate against fate. What is this? Zen Master Dade Ning's Buddha aura also began to shake. The unmovable Buddha's Dharmakaya appeared and disappeared above his head. The Buddha's Dharmakaya, which was originally the most stable, suddenly had terrifying cracks. The cracks were thick, large, and numerous. They were much more terrifying than the scars on Zen Master Dade Ning's Dharmakaya. What was more shocking was that Zen Master Dade Ning's skin gradually turned golden like a gilded Buddha statue. But at this moment, cracks began to appear on the Buddha statue. Zen Master Dade Ning, who had not completely calmed down, hurriedly shouted, "Junior brother, quickly form the unmovable Buddha's Dharma root seal." In Zen Master Dade Ning's eyes, there was a blank void intertwined with the fierce fluctuations of struggle. Unmovable. Unmovable Buddha's Dharma root seal? Yes, I should. But, without knowing the cause and effect, how can I talk about the Dharma? I can't see the nature, how can I not move? Zen Master Dade Ning's eyes were filled with despair. The situation that he was most worried about had happened. Zen Master Dade Ning's faith in the Dharma scriptures and the Tao of Karma was deeper than his. It was not easy to be shaken. But once it was shaken, the result would be much more serious than his. And he himself could not move at this moment. He couldn't help Zen Master Dade Ning even if he wanted to. Impossible. Impossible. There is nothing but cause and effect. All Tao is in cause and effect. How can there be something that is neither cause nor effect? Heretic. Evil heretic. Absurd evil heretic. The struggle in Zen Master Dade Ning's eyes became more and more intense. He denied Wang Lin's discovery, but he couldn't calm himself down. Even he himself couldn't believe the words that came out of his mouth. But he couldn't control himself. As a dignified Buddhist monk, he had to rely on his own words to calm his mind. One could imagine how chaotic his mind was at this moment. His understanding of the Dharma scriptures was deeper than that of Zen Master Dade Ning, but the doubts that arose in his heart were more difficult to resolve. His Zen heart was damaged and shaken more seriously. After a desperate cry, the unmovable Buddha's Dharma body above Zen Master Dade Ning's head suddenly shattered. "Xianmen Tianzong, evil heretic!" he roared wildly. His whole body turned into a golden light and fled far away. Zen Master Dade Ning's face was full of sorrow. He sighed helplessly. On Yujing Mountain, Lin Feng and his disciple saw this scene. Xiao Yin frowned slightly. "Master," Zen Master Dade Ning and the others, Lin Feng shook his head. "Even if I enlighten them, the breaking of the Buddha's Dharma body is also a path that they must go through. Only in this way can they embark on the path of destruction and reconstruction. If they can figure it out by themselves, their gains will be greater. It's better than enlightening them with words. If they can't figure it out by themselves, it's not too late for me to enlighten them. As long as Zen Master Dade Ning's golden body is not broken, it doesn't matter. Xiao Yin, I'll leave the care of Zen Master Dade Ning to you. Xiao Yi, find out the whereabouts of Daning." Xiao Yin and Zhu Yi bowed together. "Yes, Master." Chapter 1050. The sudden change in the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain attracted the attention of the whole world. After all, at this moment, the celestial sect of the celestial sect of the celestial continent was a superpower that played an important role in the vast land of the divine continent. Today, Xianmen Tianzong, who was ranked as one of the two poles of China with the Taishu Temple, could really make the divine land shake with a stomp of his foot. Moreover, the movement this time was not small. The Rulai Dharmakaya of two Buddhist monks at the second level of the Golden Body Realm was broken, and they fell back to the first level of the Golden Body Realm. For a time, the changes in Kunlun Mountain affected the minds of the whole world, and various forces kept investigating. Zen Master Dade disappeared into the depths of Kunlun Mountain. Others were afraid of Xianmen Tianzong, so they did not investigate further, so most of their attention was on another person who escaped far away. After a few tests, everyone was surprised to find that the person was actually the former head of the scripture pavilion of the Great Lane Temple, Zen Master Danning, who was already at the second level of the Golden Body Realm. Without a doubt, he went to visit his senior brother, but in the end, for some reason, he ended up with his Rulai Dharmakaya broken. For a time, rumors spread everywhere and there was a lot of discussion. Some said that Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Danning had a conflict, and both sides fought to the death, so that both sides were injured. Some also said that Zen Master Danning spoke rudely to Xianmen Tianzong, and was punished by Xianmen Tianzong, and his Dharmakaya was broken. Zen Master Dade protected his junior brother, and was also implicated. There were also people who thought of the war to exterminate the Buddha, and guessed whether there was an inside story. And so on, all kinds of speculations were discussed in the divine land. One after another, hypotheses were put forward, and the high-level people denied them one by one, while the middle and low-level cultivators spread it widely. In the southeast of Kunlun Mountain, in the area of the Great Hengduan Mountain, the void suddenly cracked, and a figure fell from it, smashing heavily on a mountain peak. The body of a normal person directly smashed the huge mountain peak into pieces. The mountain turned into a deep valley in an instant, and at the bottom of the valley sat an old monk, looking confused and struggling. A layer of golden radiance appeared on the old monk's body, and he looked like a golden Buddha statue that had come to life. However, at this moment, the surface of his body, which was shining with golden light, was covered with dense cracks like a spider web. This was not the result of him falling from the sky and smashing into the mountain peak. Instead, it was because his Zen heart was on the verge of shattering, and even his golden body of Buddhism was cracking. The old monk was naturally Zen Master Danning. His eyes were full of pain and struggle. There must be something wrong, there must be something wrong. If he was just an ordinary mortal monk or a Buddhist believer, he would not be in so much pain. However, as a person who had achieved the golden body through the Dharma, he was now filled with confusion and struggle. For a moment, Zen Master Danning only felt that the whole world had become unreal. His Dharma cultivation of the golden body realm had also become unreal. Even his own existence had become unreal. Senior Brother Danning, what happened? A middle-aged monk broke through the void and suddenly appeared in front of Zen Master Danning. Monk Danning looked up. Junior Brother Dakong? The person who came was Monk Dakong. His usually calm face was also filled with surprise. Other people would need to keep guessing, but as a Buddhist monk who had reached the second level of the golden body realm, he could see that Zen Master Danning was not injured by someone, but his Zen heart had been shaken and shattered. Zen Master Danning struggled to get up and shook his head repeatedly. Dakong, do you believe that there is an existence that is neither cause nor effect in this world? Monk Dakong suddenly opened his eyes wide. What did you say? While he was lost in thought, Zen Master Danning opened his palm, revealing a small Buddha statue. The small Buddha statue emitted light and wrapped around Zen Master Danning before gradually dissipating. Monk Dakong came back to his senses and looked at Zen Master Daning, who was about to disappear. Did the Master of Xianmen say something to you? He questioned the Tao of Karma and broke your Zen heart? Zen Master Daning shook his head in pain. I didn't see the Master of Xianmen, and I didn't even see his disciple. I only saw Senior Brother Dade, and then both our Zen hearts were broken. It's the disciples of the Master of Xianmen, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao. It's them. No. Everything is in karma. They must be wrong. Xianmen Tianzong is wrong. But where did they go wrong? I don't understand. Monk Dakong said in a deep voice, Senior brother, follow me back to the state of Zhou. There is the golden body of the Buddha's disciple there. Let's study it together, and we will definitely find the truth and break the evil of Xianmen Tianzong. You will also have a greater chance to complete the Vairocana Sutra. Zen Master Daning put his palms together with difficulty. No, I need to think clearly. Fate defying fate. Neither cause nor effect. But how is that possible? With a low and painful murmur, Zen Master Daning's figure completely disappeared along with the Buddha's light. Monk Dakong stood there expressionlessly, and did not stop Zen Master Daning from leaving. He could see that his senior brother was on the verge of breaking his Zen heart. Previously, there were people from other forces who tried to stop Zen Master Daning. Zen Master Daning had spent too much energy in the process of breaking out of the encirclement. If he moved now, his life might be in danger. What did Senior Brother Daning see? How can there be neither cause nor effect in this world? Monk Dakong's eyes were full of uncertainty. He joined the Great Zhou dynasty, but it did not mean that he had turned his back on Buddhism. What happened in the Great Lane Temple years ago was because he believed that his sect had gone on the evil path and deviated from the teachings of the Buddha, and he was setting things right. As the most promising genius of the Great Lane Temple years ago, Monk Dakong's attainments in Dharma were not inferior to Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Daning. At this moment, listening to Zen Master Daning's narration, he felt that it was absurd. Monk Dakong did not see the traces of Zen Master Dade's Dharma power like Zen Master Daning did, so he was confused and a little angry at the moment. Xianmen Tianzong, Master of Xianmen Gate, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao. Do you want to shake the foundation of Buddhism? Who do you think you are? Just based on your superficial understanding of our temple's Dharma? When he was seriously injured by Zhu Yi and the others in Yinghai, and his future was almost cut off, Monk Dakong was not angry like today. However, when he gradually calmed down, there were some different emotions in his heart. It was vaguely fear? Monk Dakong was stunned. How many years had it been since he had felt such an emotion? This emotion came from Zen Master Daning and Zen Master Dade. Monk Dakong knew his two senior brothers very well, and he clearly knew how firm their Zen hearts were. However, the two of them had broken their Tathagata Dharmakaya bodies because their Zen hearts were damaged. If there was no real truth that could shock them, a simple discussion of Tao would not have such an effect. This made Monk Dakong worry. What did Wang Lin, Zhu Yi, and the others find out? What did they prove? No matter what they proved, there must be a fallacy. Monk Dakong's gaze gradually became firm. Senior Brother Dade and Senior Brother Daning's Zen hearts were clouded for a moment, but they will eventually see through it. This is also a form of karma. In the past, Taishu Temple also questioned our temple's Dharma, but in the end, it was just empty talk. Monk Dakong put his palms together. Karma is Tao. When I am not here, you are not here, and he is not here, Tao is always here, and so is karma. If people don't understand karma, then nothing that is not karma exists. He returned to the Great Zhou dynasty and reported what had happened to Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou. Then, he went into seclusion and meditated for many days without saying a word. When Monk Dakong woke up from his meditation, He took out a Buddha bead. The bead glowed, and a human figure appeared. It was Zen Master Daning. Zen Master Daning looked even more haggard than before. Monk Dakong looked at him and said calmly, "Senior Brother Daning, what did you see that day? Please tell me. I also want to see the ability of Xianmen Tianzong. I want to see what he has to criticize our Tao of Karma." Zen Master Daning's eyes were filled with confusion and struggle, but there was also a hint of hope. He didn't want to believe that his Tao of Karma had been shaken, but he couldn't refute the evidence that Wang Lin had shown. Deep in his heart, he hoped that other people could help him prove that his side was right and the other side was wrong. A ball of light was sent to Monk Dakong's Buddha bead by Monk Dakong through his own Buddha bead. The light and shadow disappeared, and the connection ended. Monk Dakong looked at the Buddha bead in front of him silently and reached out a finger to touch it. Our temple has produced tens of thousands of strong cultivators, and the great Tianyuan world has also produced many strong cultivators, but no one has been able to truly shake the Tao of Karma. Now it is being criticized by a few young people? Ridiculous! At this moment, someone suddenly appeared in his secluded cultivation room and stopped him from doing anything. "Your Majesty?" Monk Dakong looked at Emperor Liang Pan in surprise. Liang Pan shook his head at him and said, "For personal and official reasons, please restrain yourself for now." Monk Dakong's expression was calm. "For official reasons, our dynasty is trying not to have any contact with Xianmen Tianzong. I can understand and will follow your Majesty's orders. But for personal reasons, is your Majesty worried that I will be like Senior Brother Dade and Senior Brother Daning? Does your Majesty also think that Xianmen Tianzong's fallacy will shake our Buddhist Tao of Karma?" Monk Dakong wouldn't give in easily even if he was facing Emperor Liang Pan. Liang Pan shook his head slightly. "I won't interfere with Master's cultivation. But if Master wishes to go to Kunlun Mountain to discuss Tao with Xianmen Tianzong, you don't have to." Monk Dakong looked at Liang Pan, and Liang Pan said calmly, "Master has been in seclusion for a few days, and there has been a lot of controversy in the Divine Land." Chapter 1051. At this moment, many disputes had arisen in the vast land of the Divine Land. The target was Xianmen Tianzong and Lin Feng's direct disciples, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao. It was rumored that the four of them had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma, which was why Monk Dade and Monk Daning, who were at the second level of the Golden Body Realm, had their Zen hearts damaged and were on the verge of shattering. Rumor had it that the four of them had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma, which was why Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Daning, who were at the second level of the Golden Body Realm, had their Zen hearts damaged and were on the verge of shattering. Decades after the destruction of the great Thunderclap Monastery, this former sacred ground had once again become the focus of the Divine Land. To many disciples of the younger generation, the great Thunderclap Monastery had already become a historical term and didn't have much practical meaning. No matter how glorious it had declined. If it was destroyed, it was destroyed. But to the experts with higher realms and the older generation of cultivators, the great Thunderclap Monastery was a huge existence that couldn't be underestimated in the history of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. If it hadn't been heavily damaged by Yuhuang Heavenly Sea in the war between the two worlds 4,600 years ago, this sacred ground of the Buddhist sect might still be standing in the Divine Land today, worshipped by tens of thousands of families. Although the number one sacred ground in the Divine Land was the Taishu Temple, that was relative to the world of cultivators. In the mortal world, the number of believers of the Buddhist sect had been the largest for a long time. Although the number one sacred ground in the Divine Land was the Taishu Temple, that was relative to the world of cultivators. In the mortal world, the number of believers of the Buddhist sect had been the largest for a long time. The Tao of Karma was also recognized by the Divine Land as a top-notch great Tao. However, this path was also publicly acknowledged to be too difficult and no one would be able to transcend it. Even if the records of the Buddhist sect recorded that the Buddha had reached the state of omniscience in the past, present, and future, those who understood the situation knew that it was an exaggeration. However, although the Taishu Temple and other powerful forces had their own orthodoxies and there had been Buddhist and Taoist discussions in history, they had never truly touched the foundation of the Tao of Karma. Regardless of whether it was the Yu Wang Celestial Sea severing the karmic luck of the Buddhist path back then or the Buddhist Annihilation War back then, what was destroyed were people and things, not the Tao of the Buddhist path. Now that there was suddenly news that the Xianmen Tianzong disciple had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma and had even broken the Zen heart of 2 golden body second-level Buddhist monks, the entire divine land couldn't help but be in an uproar. There were those who were frightened, and there were those who were doubtful. There were all sorts of situations. Some people thought that it was just a rumor and the news was not true. Some people thought that it was actually the sect master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, who had found a loophole in the Tao of Karma. In order to cherish his reputation, he pretended to be a disciple to test the reaction of the outside world. Not long after, another piece of news spread throughout the world. A Buddhist disciple appeared and made a special trip to Kunlun Mountain. Ever since the battle of annihilation of Buddhism, the Great Lane Temple had been destroyed. Although many monks had escaped, most of them had met with misfortune, especially the Buddhist disciples with lower cultivation bases. Nowadays, there were not many of them in the Divine Land. Some of them hid in the medium-class world or the foreign space to move around, while others hid their names and lived in seclusion. But this time, there were many Buddhist disciples with lower cultivation bases who walked out of their seclusion and headed to Kunlun Mountain. They did not want to submit to Xianmen Tianzong. On the contrary, they wanted to discuss the Tao with Xianmen Tianzong, Wang Lin and the rest, to defend their own Buddhist principles. To the human cultivation world in the Divine Land, although this matter had caused a huge uproar, they had not experienced it personally. But to many Buddhist monks, the meaning of the Karma Tao discussion this time, from a certain point of view, was no different from another battle of annihilation of Buddhism. Without the temple, with Buddha in their hearts, everywhere was cultivation. To the monks of the Great Lane Temple, who were powerless to resist the allied forces to annihilate Buddhism in the past, there was still one last hope in their hearts. If they cultivated diligently, they would finally have the hope of ushering in the end of Dharma and the return of the Golden Age. However, what happened this time had shaken their final perseverance. This caused many Buddhist monks to fall into a state of confusion. It also prompted them to head to Kunlun Mountain to argue with the Celestial Sect of Wonders. Among these monks there were Yuanian cultivators, Golden Elixir Period cultivators, Foundation Establishment cultivators, and even old monks who were still in the Qi refinement stage. Compared to some small and medium-sized forces, their strength was still huge, but compared to the big forces, they were already very weak, not to mention compared to a new holy land like Xianmen Tianzong. But this group of monks still spontaneously advanced towards Kunlun Mountain, as if they were on a pilgrimage, and as if they were martyrs. Many of their fellow disciples who had not heard from or seen each other since the destruction of the Great Lane Temple finally met again on this day in Kunlun Mountain. Senior brothers and junior brothers, martial uncles and martial nephews, grand martial uncles and grand martial nephews, and even master and disciple. After meeting each other, they did not greet each other. They only put their palms together and bowed. Then, they walked side by side and silently continued their journey. Maybe it was because of other considerations, or because they were concerned about the content of the karma path that Xianmen Tianzong discussed, or because they were sentimental about the beliefs of the monks. The forces in the Divine Land did not make things difficult for these monks. Even the forces that participated in the Buddhist extermination war in the past did not make things difficult for them. Even the great Zhou dynasty had adopted an attitude of turning a blind eye to the individual Buddhist remnants that suddenly appeared in their territory and they had been chasing. Only the monks who submitted to the great Zhou dynasty under the protection of the great Zhou dynasty did not go to Kunlun Mountain under the restrictions of the great Zhou dynasty. But they also fell into a particularly depressed mood. They discussed and began to constantly examine their own karma path. Whether it was the Buddhist disciples of the great Zhou dynasty or those who went to Kunlun Mountain, they all firmly believed that the karma path was correct, but they were also faintly afraid. Buddhist Master Dade and Buddhist Master Daning had Qigong deviation at the same time, and their Zen hearts were damaged. This could no longer be explained by coincidence or personal reasons. Was there really a loophole in the karma path? Was there really a problem? This thought rose in the hearts of all the Buddhist disciples. They kept erasing it from their beer, but it kept reappearing. Monk Dakong did not go to Kunlun Mountain to discuss karma path, and he also stopped the Buddhist disciples who went with him from going. But he went into seclusion again, and with him came the message from Buddhist Master Daning. He wanted to find out what exactly Xianmen Tianzong had discovered, and then find the error in it. He could not go to Kunlun Mountain now, but one day, he must go and clarify with Wang Lin and the others. In White Cloud Mountain, a woman in green stood at the foot of the mountain. She looked at the group of monks in front of her and said softly, "Master Yuan Xian, are you really going?" In front of her was a middle-aged monk in the late Yuanying realm. Behind him stood a group of monks with high and low cultivations, but they all looked solemn. The middle-aged monk, whose Dharma name was Yuan Xian, nodded. "This matter involves our Buddhist orthodoxy, so we are duty-bound. We have no choice but to make this trip to see what kind of fallacy the people from the celestial sect of wonders have come up with." The monks behind him put their palms together and chanted Buddha's name in a low voice. Yan Minghua looked at the disappearing figures of the monks, and there was a hint of worry between her brows. "Eldest senior brother, I feel that Xianmen Tianzong is not speaking without thinking." A young man appeared next to her. It was Lin Daohan. Compared to the past, Lin Daohan's facial features and appearance looked ordinary, but he gave people a strange feeling as if he was much more handsome than before. Moreover, this change seemed to be happening all the time. It was changing every moment, even though the change in a moment was extremely subtle. If it's done by the master of Xianmen, I believe it's probably true. If it's just his disciples, I can't be sure. Lin Daohan said calmly, however, the Zen hearts of the two eminent monks, Dade and Daning, have been broken. I'm afraid that they have really found a loophole in the path of karma. It's just that this loophole itself needs to be verified to see if there's any fallacy. Yan Minghua sighed softly. In the past, our ancestors had also discussed the path of karma with the eminent monks of the Tempest Temple. In the end, they all stuck to their own theories and left it unsettled. Now, Xianmen Tianzong, Lin Daohan's eyes flickered slightly. Actually, after reading the Buddhist scriptures all these years, I have more and more questions about the path of karma. However, like the ancestors, the questions are still questions, and there's no substantial progress. Based on my personal premonition, this time, it's very likely that this will really be the destruction of Buddhism again. Slowly, he said, and for Xianmen Tianzong, if this matter isn't handled well, the impact will be extraordinarily far-reaching. It's not just a problem for Buddhism. Yan Minghua nodded her head. Today, they can break the Buddhist Tao of karma. Tomorrow, they can also break the orthodoxy of other forces. In the long run, it is very likely that the celestial sect of Xianmen will fall into isolation, and even the forces that are on good terms with them will gradually be separated from them. Let's not talk about the fetters that exceed interests and the fear of power. However, this involves the struggle of the great Tao, which is the foundation of a sect, and it's enough to make other forces fear Xianmen Tianzong greatly. In reality, Many forces in the Divine Land were actually paying attention to the development of the monk's journey to Kunlun Mountain. From a rational point of view, they hoped that the final result would be that Xianmen Tianzong made a big mistake. It didn't matter if Xianmen Tianzong was embarrassed or not. The key was that their crushing attitude towards other orthodoxies was undeniable and frightening. The path of karma was already one of the top great Tao truths in the Divine Land. At least in terms of concept, even the Taishu Temple had not been able to shake it after so many years. In the imperial palace of West Hill City of the Great Qin dynasty, monarch Ruyang Shi Zongmao snorted. It's fine if the master of Taoist Xianmen says it himself. Although his disciples are powerful and have amazing combat abilities, they have only cultivated for a few years. How much knowledge and understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth can they casually slander someone else's orthodoxy that has been passed down for 10,000 years? Nanming monarch Shi Zongtang shook his head. Perhaps it's the master of Taoist Xuanmen's own idea. However, he cherishes his reputation, so he pretended to use his disciples to leave a way out for himself. Anliang monarch Shi Zongyue said hesitantly, but Buddhist monk Dade and Buddhist monk Daning are among the top Buddhist monks in the world. Even they, Shi Zongmao said, although their cultivation is high, they are only at golden body tier 2. They don't represent the top level of Buddhism. Not to mention that Gautama Buddha is still alive. Even if one of the 10 disciples of Gautama Buddha were still alive, they would definitely be able to refute Xianmen Tianzong's fallacy. Not to mention the Great Lane Temple from 4,600 years ago. Even the Great Lane Temple before the War of Extinction of the Laws had golden body tier 3 experts. They would definitely not be able to be so presumptuous. Jingfang monarch Shilin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "What if it's the master of Taoist Xuanmen's advice?" The hall suddenly fell silent. Chapter 1052. Everyone fell silent at Shilin's words. In fact, deep in their hearts, they were still skeptical about this matter. After all, for Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Daning's Zen hearts to be damaged to the extent that their minds were shaken to the point that even their Tathagata's Dharmakaya was broken, it must have been a rather direct impact and a fundamental denial that could cause such serious consequences. Even King Rosen Shi Zongmao might have sounded confident, but he might not be so sure about what he was thinking. Otherwise, his emotions would not have fluctuated. Lin Feng's many amazing feats of turning the impossible into the possible also made everyone's hearts pound. During the Battle of Shu Mountain back then, Lin Feng pointed out a problem that even the people of Shu Mountain Sword Sect did not realize. In the end, he changed the great immortal heaven manifestation sword formation into the heaven-punishing sword formation, shattering the sword hearts of Shu Mountain sword cultivators from top to bottom. What happened today was like a reenactment of the past. Emperor Qin Shiyu, who was sitting on the dragon throne, said slowly, "No matter what, from the current situation, Xianmen Tianzong's losses outweigh his gains." The others nodded silently. Xianmen Tianzong's actions this time had undoubtedly pushed him to the opposite side of Buddhism. If time went back 10,000 years, the Great Lane Monastery might have started a war with Xianmen Tianzong. Even if they did not really fight, it was inevitable that they would see each other as enemies in the future. Although Buddhism was weak and the Great Lane Monastery no longer existed, Buddhism was not extinct after all. The Five Rulai Sutra of Buddhism was still a top Buddhist cultivation in the Tianyuan Great World. Not to mention Zen Master Dade, Zen Master Daning, and Zen Master Dakong, who were experts at the second level of the Golden Body Realm. During the battle to exterminate Buddhism back then, the last abbot of the Great Thunderclap Monastery and the 3 Supreme Elders had a total of 4 experts at the third level of the Golden Body Realm. 3 of them had died, but there was still one Supreme Elder, Zen Master Zhiheng, who had broken out of the encirclement and was stranded outside. Although the great Lane monastery was destroyed, it still had some foundation. It was just that it had to keep a low profile because of the environment, and now that the Xianmen Sky sect is rising more and more powerfully, and also because of Lin Feng's kindness to Zen Master Dade and the act of collecting Buddhist scriptures and relics, the other forces of the Divine Continent are all guessing in their hearts that the remaining forces of the Great Thunder Temple in the past are very likely to gradually join the Xianmen Sky sect, so the strength of the Xianmen Sky sect is becoming more and more powerful. But from the looks of it, it was the celestial sect of wonders who had courted death and cut off this path. Even Zen Master Danning had been persuaded by Zen Master Dade and had the intention to join the Xian Gate Heavenly sect. Now it seemed that he had become an enemy. As for the celestial sect of the celestial sect of the celestial sect of wonders, Zen Master Dade, who had made a lot of contributions to the sect, was also severely injured. His strength declined and his future was uncertain. Not to mention other outside influences, Xianmen Tianzong's own forces had been damaged. These were only the losses that could be calculated on the surface. The hidden losses that could not be calculated were even greater. Zen Master Dade, who had made great contributions to the sect, had his Zen heart broken. What would Zhuge Zhan, Miao Shihao, Kong Nanhua, and the others in Xianmen Tianzong think? What would the Mahayana grade magic treasures, such as the bipolar sky peak, Xiantian seal, and Sangtian Dao Jian, think? How would the other experts in the outside world, who wanted to join Xianmen Tianzong, not have doubts? Maybe everything was just an accident. Xianmen Tianzong did not want this to happen. But if an accident happened again, who could guarantee that the next unlucky person would not be them? For the Great Qin dynasty, even the Purple Sky Dao, the Northern Militant Royal Court, the Celeritas Sword Sect, and the Thunderbolt Sword Sect, they had the same concerns. So it was not only Stonefeather, Shi Zongmao, Shi Zongtong, and the other experts of the Great Qin dynasty. At this moment, all the experts of the human race were paying attention to the development of the monks going to Kunlun. Perhaps because they did not receive the news, or because they could not get away, or because of other considerations, there were no Buddhist experts who had achieved the golden body among the monks who went to Kunlun. The ones with the highest cultivation were only Monk Yuan Xian and Monk Yuan Qing, who were at the late Yuanying realm. Under their lead, the monks gathered together. They had solemn expressions and walked silently. They did not break through the space to escape. Instead, they walked over mountains and rivers. They walked all the way to the depths of the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain, to the bank of Yunfeng Mirror Lake. Although none of the monks who crossed the mountains had achieved the golden body of Buddhism, they had an awe-inspiring and dignified aura. In the area of Kunlun Mountain, anything that happened was mostly under the control of Xianmen Tianzong. When the monks arrived, Lin Feng and his disciple naturally knew. Zhu Yi and Wang Lin stood on Yujing Mountain. Their gazes seemed to pass through the layers of void and landed on the mountains of Kunlun Mountain. Tiantai, Tianqi, remember to take it step by step, Zhu Yi said lightly. Behind him, Yang Tai and Li Xingfei bowed and answered, "Yes, master." The two left the mountain and went to Yunfeng. Zhu Yi turned his head and looked at Wang Lin. Although after the incident with Zen Master Danning, the current situation was also expected, I did not think that the situation would develop to this point. However, the more the truth is debated, the clearer it becomes. This is also the path that must be taken. Wang Lin nodded. I'll go and see Zen Master Dade. After Yang Tai and Li Xingfei went down Yunfeng, they came to the shore of Mirror Lake and bowed in front of the monk. Although they could not see Wang Lin, Zhu Yi, and the others, which made the monks a little dissatisfied, there was nothing they could do. After all, the people who were equal to Wang Lin and the others had to be Buddhist powerhouses like Zen Master Danning and Monk Dakong. Although Yang Tai and Li Xingfei were still cultivators in the Golden Elixir period, they were decent people and had high status. They were the personal disciples of Zhu Yi and Wang Lin respectively. A young monk thought in his heart, "If I refute you, let's see if your master can still sit still." Monk Yuan Xian's expression was calm. "We have no other purpose for coming here. We heard that your sect has a different understanding of our Buddhist Tao of karma, so we came here to discuss Tao." Yang Tai turned to look at Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei nodded and said calmly, "My master already knows why you are here, so he specially ordered me to wait here for you masters. It's normal to discuss Tao and ask for advice, so it's fine. I wonder if you want to greet Zen Master Dade first, or start discussing Tao directly." Monk Yuan Xn and Monk Yuan Qing shook their heads. "Let's start directly, there's no hurry with Uncle Master Dade." Actually, some monks still had some complaints about Zen Master Dade. They felt that he had led a wolf into the house, which led to today's disaster. However, Zen Master Dade's seniority was high and he was dignified, so it was not appropriate for them to say anything. Yang Tai said, "Please forgive me for my poor hospitality." After saying that, he led the monks up Cloud Peak and into the central hall. After entering the hall, they sat down. The monks faced Yang Tai and Li Xingfei, but there was no disturbance. They were all answered by Monk Yuan Xian and Monk Yuan Qing. "Almsgiver, forgive me for not agreeing with you." Monk Yuan Qing put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. "Strange things are common in the world, and my brother and I are not ignorant and inexperienced people. All these years I have lived in seclusion in the village, and I have seen many similar things. There are things that seem strange and have no reason, but in fact it's just because the truth is hidden, and mortals are unable to know." Monk Yuan Qing said, "For example, there was a man in the village who dreamed of being bitten by a giant insect. He woke up with a start every time and couldn't sleep at night, looking haggard. Later, when he fell asleep again, he killed the giant insect in his dream. When he woke up, he found a small insect the size of a thumb outside the window that looked exactly like the insect in his dream. The insect was already dead, and the man never had nightmares again. Rumor has it that this man killed insects in his dream, but it's actually just a kind of monster. It can only enter dreams to harm people and injure their souls, but it's very weak itself. If it was injured by someone in the dream, its soul would be destroyed, and it would really die." Monk Yuan Qing looked at Li Xingfei and Yang Tai and said in a deep voice, "There are some things in the world that can't be explained with cause and effect. It's because we don't understand cause and effect, not because cause and effect doesn't exist." Monk Yuan Xian spread out his palms. "Please take a look. Here are two iron balls that are extremely similar in weight." There was an iron ball in each of his palms, and they looked exactly the same. Monk Yuan Xian said silently, "For mortals, they can't tell the difference in weight between these two iron balls. Even the most accurate scale can't measure the difference. Even qi condensation cultivators and even foundation establishment cultivators can't detect or measure it. But this doesn't mean that the weight of these two iron balls is exactly the same." Monk Yuan Xian said, "This poor monk, fellow Taoists, or any cultivator of the Golden Elixir period or Yuanying period can detect the slight difference in weight." Yang Tai and Li Xingfei looked at each other and smiled. Li Xingfei said, "But from the point of view of mortals, when we are in the qi condensation and foundation establishment realms, whether it's us or a great master, in reality, we don't know if there's a definite difference between the two iron balls." Monk Yuan Xian also smiled. "That's right, but there are too few iron balls like this, and we can already measure most of them." Li Xingfei shook her head. "But there's another situation. If we use the same method all the time, then no matter how long it takes, there will always be some iron balls that can't be accurately measured." All the monks shook their heads at the same time. "That's impossible." Some arrogant people even sneered in their hearts. "In tens of thousands of years, who knows how many experts there have been, but no one has been able to shake the path of Buddhism. Even Taishu Temple hasn't been able to do so. If you want to criticize us, Xianmen Tianzong, you should at least have established your own sect for more than 10,000 years. It's not like there aren't meteors that pass by in a flash. Li Xingfei's expression was calm. She pointed her finger lightly, and a ball of light and shadow appeared in front of everyone. A moment later, on Mount Yujing, Lin Feng's heart suddenly stirred. He glanced at the void below the mountain and slightly raised his eyebrows. First, Shu Mountain made me break their glass hearts, and now it's Buddhism's turn. But in all honesty, us master and disciples really didn't come here just to break their Tao hearts. In the future, I won't get the nickname of the destroyer of Tao hearts, right? This reputation doesn't sound good. He shook his head and looked at Zen Master Dade in front of him. Master, let's continue. Chapter 1053. At this moment, Monk Dade in front of Lin Feng also manifested his Buddhist golden body, just like Monk Daning did not long ago. The old monk's whole body was like a gilded Buddha statue, his whole body flashing with golden brilliance. But at this time, his golden body was also covered with spider web-like cracks, just not as serious as Monk Daning's. But the mental state of Monk Dade was already a world of difference compared to before. His eyes were now filled with contemplation and enlightenment, no longer struggling and bewildered like before. Although the golden body was covered with cracks, it did not give people a sense of desolation, because the Buddhist light on his body was calm and stable, full of a sense of perfection and freedom. Lin Feng clapped his hands and said with a smile, Master, you really are a man of great wisdom and courage. Buddhist monk Dade put his palms together, shook his head and said, Sovereign's words make this old monk ashamed. If it weren't for Sovereign's timely reminder, I don't know when this old monk would have woken up. In this process, even the slightest mistake would have shattered my golden body. Master, you are too serious. Lin Feng waved his hand. It's best if the truth can be figured out by oneself. If someone else interferes, it will inevitably be disadvantageous. This is also the reason why I have not interfered before. Although I discussed with you later, I felt uneasy, afraid that it would delay your cultivation. A smile appeared at the corner of Lin Feng's mouth. But Master, you are indeed an eminent monk with deep roots of wisdom. Although I interfered, I did not delay your cultivation. This makes me very happy. He shook his head and said, In fact, from the beginning, it would be best if the Buddhist disciples could realize the mysteries of karma, fate, and defying fate themselves. But now that I'm involved in it, I'm still a little lacking. I'll need the reverend and the eminent monks of Buddhism to put in more effort. Monk Dade smiled slightly, full of wisdom. If Master did not extend a helping hand, I am afraid that I and the others will not be able to jump out of the fixed circle for the rest of my life, forever ignorant of the sky from the bottom of a well. Jumping out of the well is small wisdom. Realizing that one is in the well is great wisdom. I only have small wisdom, but I lack great wisdom. Lin Feng gazed towards the void below Jade Capital Mountain. It's just that today's matter was not my original intention. How can you blame your master and disciple? Monk Dade smiled bitterly. It is my fault. If I had kept my mouth shut with Junior Brother Daning that day, it would not have gotten to this point. Lin Feng said, You can't say that. Master, you do not want Junior Brother Daning to have a conflict with our sect. But Junior Brother is not a member of our sect. Whatever he wants to do, I will not interfere. Xianmen Tianzong. If he had come to our sect to reason with us that day, we would not have avoided him. As long as he did not hurt anyone or destroy it, we would not have made things difficult for him. If Monk Daning wanted to leave on his own, I, Xianmen Tianzong, would not interfere with what he talked about with others on the way. I sent my disciple to accompany him only to protect his safety, lest he was taken advantage of by thieves. After he escapes safely, I will not follow him again. Lin Feng put his hands behind his back and said silently, "Although I and my disciple are exploring the way of cause and effect, I have no intention of attacking or provoking Buddhism. I only revealed the results to you personally in the hope that it will be of help to you in your cultivation. We will not deliberately leak the information, but if it is really spread, we will not deliberately conceal it and detain all those who know. I will not do such a thing. The more the truth is debated, the clearer it becomes. The truth will not change because of one's will, or become non-existent. If someone can prove that what I and my disciple think is wrong, then I will be happy. As a cultivator, we are always exploring and moving forward on the long road." Lin Feng said, "Just like today when I discussed the way with you, I also gained something." Monk Dade frowned and said, "It is just that the impact of this matter is not good. It may cause other forces to misunderstand and fear our sect and you." Lin Feng chuckled, "It is not a problem. In fact, such things are not rare in the history of the Divine Land. It is just that this time, because it is the way of cause and effect of Buddhism, the reaction is extremely strong." Hearing this, Monk Dade smiled bitterly. His gaze also looked at the void below Yujing Mountain, as if he was looking at the hall above the clouds. He sighed softly, "If you pass this test, you will achieve Bodhi. If you cannot, you will suffer in the sea of bitterness. I can lead you out of the sea of bitterness, but if you do not achieve Bodhi, you will not be free. We, the disciples of Buddhism, cultivate ourselves. Jumping out of the well is the true freedom. Otherwise, we will be trapped in other wells one day." At this moment, the Yunfeng Hall in Xianmen Tianzong was like a shuraba where there was no blood or filth. The group of monks led by Yuan Xian and Yuan Cheng were all in a daze. They were speechless, as if they had turned into clay statues or wooden sculptures. The monks with lower cultivation were more normal. It was just that they were all agitated and loudly reprimanded Li Xingfei and Yang Tai. But when they were asked to explain, they were tongue-tied and could only look at their elders. But Yuan Xian, Yuan Cheng, and the other monks with higher cultivations, at this moment, their gazes were filled with confusion and struggle. Their lips trembled, unable to say a word. Especially the Yuanying Buddhist cultivators. At this moment, their bodies were all flashing with dazzling Buddhist light. They could not control themselves. Yang Tai frowned and put his hands together. The mixed origin heaven-sealing Dharma realm appeared in the center and covered all the monks. Under pressure, the group of monks began to attack Yang Tai. Yang Tai did not say a word. He combined his spells and the defensive Dharma shield to resist the monks' attacks. The two late-stage Yuanying cultivators, Yuan Xian and Yuan Cheng, reacted and hurriedly stopped their fellow disciples. "Stop. Almsgiver Yang is preventing your Buddhist light from going out of control and devouring the disciples with lower cultivation." They finally stopped the chaotic situation, but the atmosphere in the hall was still extremely anxious. Li Xingfei said, "Fellow Buddhists who are willing to stay in our sect to discuss Tao, feel free to stay." Many monks' eyes were lifeless and muddle-headed as they stood there in a daze. Some revealed expressions of deep thought and immediately sat down cross-legged and fell into deep thought. There were also many who could not calm down. These people could not accept the fact that the Tao of karma had been shaken. They could not accept the existence of things that couldn't be explained by karma. However, they could not think of any words to refute it. Their minds were in a mess and evil thoughts grew in their hearts. They only felt that the Xianmen Tianzong in front of them was like hell, and they subconsciously wanted to escape. All laws are empty, only karma is not empty. No one knew who was the first to shout. Then, he rushed out of the Cloud Peak Hall, down the Cloud Peak, and rushed towards the Kunlun Mountains. After him, many monks also rushed out, wanting to get away from the Xianmen Tianzong that brought them nightmares. Li Xingfei and Yang Tai were silent. As long as the other party did not do anything to destroy the Tao of Karma, they would not interfere. The majestic group of monks went to the Kunlun Mountains, but in the end they got such a result. This made the hearts of many sects in the divine land sink. Their hopes were now pinned on the mighty figures of the Buddhist sects who had achieved the golden body realm other than Dade and Daning, especially the only surviving supreme elder of the great Lane monastery in the past, Zen Master Zhi Heng, who was at the third level of the golden body realm. Since Zen Master Zhi Heng broke out of the encirclement in the past, there was little news about him. The last time anyone saw him was more than 10 years ago in the vast thousand world. Someone caught a glimpse of this Buddhist elder in the void battlefield. Since then, there was no news of him. Those who knew about Monk De Kong also pinned their hopes on Monk De Kong. After all, he was an outstanding figure among the senior monks of the De generation. In fact, Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou was also paying attention to Monk De Kong, who was in seclusion. If he could find the fallacy in Xianmen Tianzong's theory, even if he did not launch it this time, he could show it at a suitable time in the future to give Xianmen Tianzong a heavy blow. Liang Pan's eyes flashed suddenly. In the next moment, he had already personally appeared in the room where Monk De Kong was in seclusion. In front of him was an extremely shocking scene. Monk De Kong sat cross-legged on the ground. Although he looked calm and peaceful, his head was sweating profusely. Above his body, Buddhist light condensed and formed the Tathagata Dharma body. The Dharma body held 2 Vajras in its right hand and a bell in its left. The throne was carried by a sangsang bird with a human body and long horns. The Tathagata Dharma body, which was originally filled with the perfected true meaning of all elements, was now cracking inch by inch. It was like a land that had been in a drought for a long time, or like a broken porcelain. The huge Tathagata Dharma body kept twisting and was on the verge of breaking. Liang Pan was shocked. He stretched out his palm and used his magic power to protect Monk De Kong's Dharma body. However, the breaking of Monk De Kong's Dharma body came from the inside out. It was not broken by someone from the outside. Even Liang Pan, who was in the Tao integration realm, could not suppress it. This was a change caused by Monk De Kong's Zen heart being damaged. It could not be stopped by external forces. Even the Grand Imperial Palace and Great Wheel of Heaven could not suppress it by force. No. Impossible. How can there be something that the Tao of Karma cannot explain? How can there be something that is neither cause nor effect? If such a thing exists, then the other things. Monk De Kong suddenly opened his eyes, which were filled with pain and struggle. Xianmen Tianzong, there must be a problem with your so-called Tao of defying fate. There must be a mistake. Unorthodox Tao of evil. Unorthodox Tao of evil. Liang Pan's face was ghastly pale as he watched Monk De Kong's Dharma body shatter in front of him and turn into flowing light. De Kong's Dharma body shattered, and a windstorm swept through the surroundings. The momentum was about to flatten everything within a radius of 1,000 miles. However, Liang Pan was here, so he naturally would not allow Monk De Kong to destroy his palace. However, Liang Pan, who was protecting his palace, had a rarely seen ugly expression. The helplessness he felt just now had caused him, the Emperor, to be in an extremely bad mood. Furthermore, this was just the beginning. After Buddha's Dharma body shattered, Monk De Kong manifested his golden body. Dense cracks appeared on his golden body, and the once sturdy and indestructible golden body seemed like it would collapse at any time. Chapter 1054. Monk De Kong, who was already severely injured in the Ying Ocean, had almost lost his path of improvement. Now that his Zen heart was damaged and his Rulai Dharma body was broken, there was a high possibility that he could reach the second level of the golden body realm again. Even his golden body was covered in cracks. His current situation was extremely dangerous. However, Liang Pan could do nothing about it and could only watch helplessly. This feeling of helplessness made him feel worse than losing an essence soul expert. Monk de Kong did not have the time to think about whether it was possible for him to condense the Rulai Dharma body again in the future. He was now focused on thinking about the Tao of destiny and the Tao of defying destiny. The cracks on his golden body slowly healed after they cracked, but they immediately cracked again after they healed, and they were even more serious than before. Destiny. Defying destiny. Neither cause nor effect. No. Looking back, there must be a reason in the karma of time. Everything in the world is in karma. But where is the reason? Where is it? Monk de Kong's eyes were bloodshot. They were confused, but they were also filled with anger and ferocity. He roared into the sky, Xian Men Tianzong. Unfortunately, this roar could not alleviate his situation. Instead, an even larger and more terrifying crack appeared on his golden body, as if it was going to split him into two. The news that Monk de Kong's Zen heart was almost broken was covered up by the Great Zhou Empire. However, the monks who joined the Great Zhou Empire all remained silent. This also allowed the other forces to vaguely see some clues, which made them feel complicated. Many people's hearts were heavy. In the end, no Buddhist monk could stand out to correct and refute Xianmen Tianzong. Did this prove that Xianmen Tianzong was actually correct? Has the Buddhist sect really weakened? Is there no one who can come out? In West Hill City, monarch Rosen Shi Zongmao frowned, and his tone was slightly anxious. Although that was what he said, deep in his heart, he could not stop doubting. Is Xianmen Tianzong's Dharma really that powerful? Cultivators have powerful magical powers. Could it be that their understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth is also superior? Qin Emperor Stonefeather was silent. Beneath the flat imperial hat, his expression was dark and gloomy, unreadable. Only a complicated light flickered in his eyes. Prince Nanming Shi Zongtong, Prince Anliang Shi Zongyue, Prince Jingfang Shi Lin, and all of the higher-ups of the great Qin dynasty did not say anything. At this moment, they were all doing the same thing, and that was to constantly scrutinize their own 5 Emperor True Dragon secretaries. He examined it over and over again, examining it from different angles. He screened himself and repeatedly searched for his own orthodoxy to see if there were any mistakes. If the loophole he found was a fundamental problem, it would also have an impact on the cultivator's Tao heart, but the situation would be much milder than if it was discovered by an outsider. Shi Zongmao looked at Shi Zongyue, Shi Lin, and the others and said in a deep voice, "Don't linger on the minor details. Examine yourselves from the root." He was doing the same thing himself. Even if there were loopholes in the branches, it would not shake the cultivator's Tao heart. In fact, every Tao technique would be discovered over a long period of time. The greater the force, the more top Tao techniques, the more it would be like this. Any top Tao technique would be carefully studied by generations of cultivators, constantly eliminating the impurities and leaving behind the essence, and thus constantly perfected and sublimated. 4 Tao techniques, the exploration of the myriad great Tao of heaven and earth, and the continuous improvement of Tao techniques, this was also the path that must be taken. But if the foundation of a Tao technique was shaken, it would be like the foundation of a building had a problem, and the entire building would be in danger of collapsing. Hearing Shi Zongmao's words, Shi Zongyue and the others nodded without saying a word. At this moment, Qin Emperor Stonefeather suddenly stood up and said slowly, "Let's go to the ancient sky dragon domain." Shi Zongmao, Shi Zongtong, Shi Zongyue, and the others nodded in unison. Stonefeather directly raised his hand and shot out a talisman in the main hall, which shone brightly in midair, and soon turned into a door of light, from which a large amount of red light seeped out. A group of primordial spirit experts of the great Qin dynasty stepped into it together. The same thing was happening in many places on the Divine Land. Thunder Mountain Range, Purple Firmament Peak, Purple Firmament Path. The top of the mountain was shrouded in thick thunderclouds that did not disperse for thousands of years. Only lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, rising and falling in the thick clouds. At the top of the mountain, in the main hall of the purple firmament path, in the heavenly thunder palace, the current sect master of purple firmament path, Tao Master Thundercloud, was silent. Sitting below him was an old man, his senior brother Tao Master Blue Thunder. The two brothers faced each other in silence. After a long time, Tao Master Blue Thunder broke the silence. Our sect's 9 heavens divine thunder great Tao has always been incomplete. Tao Master Thundercloud's voice was like rolling thunder. Incomplete does not mean that the Tao technique inheritance of the ancient Hongdu patriarch is wrong. Tao Master Blue Thunder smiled bitterly. The problem is that it is incomplete. We want to establish the foundation from the foundation, so it is inevitable that there will be omissions. The ancient Hongdu patriarch they were talking about was a powerful individual cultivator in ancient times, known as the Thunder Emperor. Although he was an individual cultivator, he was famous and influential in ancient times. Not to mention anything else, in the history of the human clan cultivation world, only Tai Huang could be compared to him in terms of thunder method. Purple Firmament Path was founded by Tao Master Purple Firmament, the eldest disciple of the Thunder Emperor. Tao Master Purple Firmament established the sect and founded the current Purple Firmament Path. However, including Tao Master Purple Firmament himself, the Purple Firmament Path had always worshipped the Thunder Emperor as the original ancestor. Tao Master Thundercloud fell into silence after hearing this. After a long time, he said softly, "You and I should think about it carefully." Tao Master Blue Thunder sighed, "That's the only way." They looked to the west, in the direction of Kunlun Mountain. At this moment, their gazes were filled with complicated feelings. Yearning, awe, respect, fear, dread, all kinds of emotions were contained. Northern Militant Royal Court, Celerita's Sword Sect, Thunderbolt's Sword Sect, and other large forces that were originally friendly with Xianmen Tianzong were all shrouded in the same dark clouds at this moment. The other sects were even more depressed. A few people even went to White Cloud Mountain, hoping to know the exact attitude of Taishu Temple on this matter. Many of the monks who went to Kunlun Mountain, some stayed to continue to comprehend the Tao and wanted to argue with Xianmen Tianzong, while others couldn't bear the burden and fled Kunlun Mountain in a hurry. After contacting these people and learning about the specific news, the other forces were even more complicated because they could vaguely feel that Xianmen Tianzong was not speaking without a goal. The monks couldn't refute it not because their cultivation level was not high enough, but because the truth of Xianmen Tianzong had really shaken the foundation of the Buddhist concept of cause and effect. This was especially so for those experts who already had an understanding of the Buddhist principles. In the Mountain Gate of Reincarnation Sect, Azura Dao Master Mo Shiluo, Heaven Temple Dao Master Shin Qifeng, and Hell Dao Master and the others all had complicated expressions. "I'm afraid Xianmen Tianzong's point of view is right." Shin Qifeng sighed and said, "Cause and effect are not the only thing. There are other things besides fate. Fortunately, we are not like the Buddhist cultivators who see cause and effect as the only thing. Otherwise, our Taoist heart would be damaged or even broken." He sighed. The Buddhist sect can't complain about losing in this sparring session. Now it seems that the people of the celestial sect of Xianmen, in addition to being sharp and fierce in fights, also have an extremely deep understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Their accumulation is deep and their understanding is thorough. They are far from as shallow as a new sect. This kind of Xianmen Tianzong is the scary one because it is full of potential. There will not be a situation of 3 generations of decline because of a temporary shortage of talent. As long as they can resist the external pressure, a few outstanding people will be able to rush to the peak again. Mo Shiluo and the others did not speak, but they all had expressions of agreement on their faces. In White Cloud Mountain, Yun Yuanjun and Yen Mingyue also looked solemn. The highest elder of Taishu Temple, Yun Yuanjun, clapped his hands and sighed, "What a way to defy fate! The problem that the Divine Land has not been able to solve for many years has been solved by Xianmen Tianzong today. For many years, even I have been able to detect the irrationality of the Buddhist concept of cause and effect as the way, but it has always been a question on paper. I have never found the real basis to shake its foundation. I have to say that Xianmen Tianzong has really opened my eyes this time. It is even more shocking than what happened in Mount Shu." Yen Mingyue said slowly, "The problem is that it is so shocking that it almost disperses the hearts of the people." The two of them also had mixed feelings. Proving that the celestial sect of Xianmen was correct meant that it proved the power of the celestial sect of Xianmen, but it also meant that all of this would cause the common fear of all the forces in the vast land of the Divine Land. Overall, Xianmen Tianzong lost more than they gained this time. Their Taoism is indeed powerful. It is the same whether we know it or not. But in this way they will easily be isolated, and it will easily cause everyone to be afraid and even hostile. Yun Yuanjun said silently, "The situation is very delicate now. For Xianmen Tianzong, the best situation is that the others have alienated and guarded against them. But in the worst situation, they may even become the enemy of the whole world." A woman with a cold face appeared beside Yun Yuanjun and Yen Mingyue. It was the highest elder Yuyuan. She said coldly, "If the Big Lane Temple had not been destroyed, it might not have been a group of monks going to Kunlun Mountain to discuss Taoism, but all the Buddhas, Jedi, and Arhats would have gone to Yujing Mountain together. Even if the news did not spread, Xianmen Tianzong has lost Zen Master Dade this time and suffered greatly." Yuan shook his head and said, "The master of Xianmen Tianzong is boundless and unscrupulous. It is like a double-edged sword, and now he has finally hurt himself. He should reflect on himself and reflect on what he has done in the past. Otherwise, he will hurt others and himself." As they were talking, Yun Yuanjun, and Yen Mingyue were suddenly stunned. Their eyes passed through the void and looked in the direction of Kunlun Mountain. There, between the peaks of Kunlun, there was suddenly an infinite light rushing into the sky and shining in all directions. Chapter 1055. Kunlun Mountain suddenly shone brightly. Tao Master Yun Yuanjun, and Yen Mingyue could not see clearly as they were in White Cloud Mountain. But soon a round mirror-like shadow appeared above their heads. Hao Tian Mirror! Lord Yuan and the others looked back at the mirror light. Under the mirror light, Yen Nanlai and Lin Daohan stood together on the peak of Baiyun Mountain. Yen Nanlai adjusted the light of the Haotian mirror and aimed it at the distant Kunlun Mountain range. An image gradually appeared in the light. When everyone saw the content, they held their breath. In the middle of the Kunlun Mountains, the Cloud Peak Mirror Lake of the Celestial Sect of Wonders sat there quietly. However, there was no sign of the Yujing Mountain. On a mountain peak not far from the Cloud Peak, light shone in all directions. The light was neither hot nor warm. It was extremely pure, without the slightest warmth or heat. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. There was nothing but light. Under the light, ordinary people could not even open their eyes, let alone see what was inside. But this was not a problem for the people of Taishu Temple, who were observing through the Haotian mirror. They could clearly see an old monk in a white robe sitting cross-legged on the peak of the mountain in the center of the light. His body seemed to be plated with a layer of golden brilliance, like a gilded Buddha statue. It was Monk Dade. His golden body still had horrifying cracks. However, at this moment, the cracks were continuously healing. Monk Master Dade's golden body was once again perfect and flawless. Monk Dade opened his eyes. His expression was peaceful and joyful, without the slightest confusion or struggle. Instead, he revealed a sense of clarity that was far greater than before. It was as if he had seen through layers of fog and his soul was pure. At this moment, although Monk Dade was only at the first level of the golden body realm, and even the cracks on his golden body could not be completely healed, his wisdom, enlightenment, and the true meaning of freedom and liberation were even stronger than when he was at the second level of the golden body realm. Good. Monk Dade smiled and chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. I have experienced countless catastrophes, and there is no obstacle in the 10 Directions Kingdom. Immeasurable light, immeasurable longevity, illuminate the world. With immeasurable light I will save the people of the world. All will attain great wisdom and great freedom. Excellent, excellent. Amidst the chanting of Buddha, all the cracks on Monk Dafu's golden body disappeared, becoming pure and flawless. The golden Buddha's light was not overbearing nor dazzling, but unusually gentle, filled with the realm of freedom of the mighty figures of Buddhism. His golden body was pure and clear without the slightest impurity. It was like colored glass, bright, solid, condensed, and strong. Outside the golden body, the vast expanse of white light became increasingly dazzling and eye-catching. In this boundless light, the vague figure of a huge Buddha gradually appeared. The Buddha's body was golden and emitted a red radiance. He sat on a lotus and a full moon, and the throne beneath him was carried by 8 peacocks. He held a lotus in his right hand and a bell in his left. It was the image of Amitabha Tathagata. In the eyes of Yen Nanlai and the rest, this scene was no less than a sudden clap of thunder. He's going to reconstruct Tathagata's Dharmakaya? It was not impossible for Monk Dafu to reconstruct Tathagata's Dharmakaya, but the possibility was very small, especially when his Dharmakaya was shattered and his Zen heart was damaged. If he could not reconstruct his Zen heart, it would already be a great fortune for him to barely maintain his golden body. The scene in front of them showed that Monk Dafu's Zen heart had regained its stability. It was clear and bright, untainted by dust. Could it be that he found the fallacy of Xianmen Tianzong's theory, and once again proved that karma is the way? All laws are empty, but karma is not empty? Yen Mingyue frowned, but it doesn't seem like it. At this moment, the Buddhist disciples on Cloud Peak also ran out of their residences and looked at the bright mountain peak in the distance. Even if the light was so piercing that they could not open their eyes, and even if they tried hard, they could not see the figure in the depths of the light. However, it did not prevent them from distinguishing that this was an eminent monk who cultivated Amitabha Tathagata's Dharmakaya. In the area of Kunlun Mountain, there was no doubt that the only person who had such a cultivation was Monk Dafu, whose Dharmakaya had been shattered and had fallen to the first level of the golden body realm. This raised some hope in their confused and painful state of mind. The group of monks also had the same thoughts as Yen Mingyue. They eagerly hoped that Monk Dafu could prove that Xianmen Tianzong's theory was wrong. They eagerly hoped that Monk Dafu could prove that their great Thunderclap monastery had been passed down for countless years, that they had spent their entire lives studying, and that the principles that they firmly believed in were correct. Amitabha's light gradually retracted, and Monk Dafu's figure reappeared. Above his head, the Amitabha Tathagata's Dharmakaya condensed from Buddha's light emitted dazzling light, illuminating everything in the world. Buddha is merciful. All the monks were overjoyed, but before they could go forward to greet Monk Dafu, the situation changed again. Above the head of Monk Dafu's Amitabha Tathagata's Dharmakaya, Buddha's light suddenly condensed again, gradually forming a huge ball of light. An endless stream of light appeared on Amitabha Tathagata's body, continuously supplying the ball of light, and Tathagata's Dharmakaya itself became faintly discernible. Everyone's eyes widened, and they saw that there seemed to be a pure land in the ball of light. Being in it, it was as if one could obtain bliss, never feeling pain, never suffering. On White Cloud Mountain, Lord Yuan said word by word, "Pure land of bliss." After the mighty figures of the Buddhist sects condensed Tathagata's Dharmakaya to the second level of the golden body realm, they would cultivate the pure land, turn away worries, purify the 5 accumulations, and achieve Buddha's wisdom. Then, they could cultivate to the 3rd level of the golden body realm, which was equivalent to the 3rd level of the primordial spirit realm. Obtaining the Pure Land was equivalent to obtaining the Tao fruit of the Tao. The Pure Land obtained by cultivating the Amitabha Sutra was called the Pure Land of Karma. The Pure Land obtained by cultivating the Amitabha Sutra was called the Pure Land of Bliss because there was no suffering or suffering in it. The worry transformed by this Pure Land was greed, and the accumulations purified were thinking accumulations. The wisdom obtained from the transformation of greed was non-discrimination wisdom. It represented that the heart of the cultivator was peaceful and at ease, free from the pain of samsara, and ascended to the Pure Land of Bliss. After reconstructing Tathagata's Dharmakaya, Zen Master Dade didn't stop. He actually started to transform his own worries, purify his thinking accumulations, and achieve non-discrimination wisdom. He wanted to create his own Pure Land of Bliss. Once the Pure Land was formed, Zen Master Dade successfully advanced to the 3rd level of the Golden Body Realm. Yen Nanlai stared at the center of the Pure Land in the ball of light. There was a faint light flickering there. That is the Amitabha light, the core of the Pure Land of Bliss. Once this light is formed, the Pure Land of Bliss is formed. Yen Nanlai said slowly, Amitabha light is also the strongest divine power that can be cultivated from the Amitabha Tathagata Sutra. It is far superior to the great enlightenment Zen light, but he didn't continue speaking. It wasn't that he hadn't come into contact with the eminent monks who had cultivated the Pure Land of Bliss. However, even though Zen Master Dade's Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss was not completely mastered, the concept within it, compared to his predecessors, was clearly more perfect in reflecting one's true nature. It was more profound and profound. Lin Daohan stared at Zen Master Dade. Even he, who was usually indifferent, was slightly moved at this moment. From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like he found the loophole in Xianmen Tianzong's theory, and from there, he comprehended the Tao of karma and stabilized his Tao heart. It seems like enlightenment. At this moment, Yun Yuanzhen, Lord Yuan, and Yen Mingyue also arrived at the peak of the mountain. They stood beside Yen Nanlai and his disciple. According to the Buddhists, it's like being hit on the head by someone and being enlightened overnight. Yen Mingyue muttered to herself, is it also because of Xianmen Tianzong's theory? Not only did he not sink into the sea of suffering, but he also broke through and stood up again. He cleared the obstacles in front of him and obtained great relief and freedom, reaching a higher level. Yen Nanlai nodded and said, it's not impossible, but the possibility is too low. After all, Xianmen Tianzong's discovery has fundamentally shaken the understanding of Buddhist cultivators. Although there can be no construction without destruction, the possibility of reconstruction after destruction is so much smaller than the possibility of complete destruction. It's so small that it's almost negligible. The hope is too small if he only comprehended it on his own. I'm afraid Dade received some advice from the master of Xianmen Gate, which is why he was able to have this opportunity. Yun Yuanzhen sighed. That must be the case. That's why Dade purposely reconstructed his Dharma body in front of everyone in Kunlun Mountain, and even tried to break through to the Pure Land realm. It was to remind the other Buddhist disciples, and at the same time, to clear Xianmen Tianzong's name and announce it to the world. Otherwise, if he had comprehended it on his own, he could have found a place with no one around to slowly cultivate, or he could have stayed on Yujing Mountain to cultivate. Lord Yuan stared at Monk Dade and shook his head, not saying a word. Master, Marshal Uncle Jingyi. Yen Nanlai's heart skipped a beat. He looked back and saw Lord Tai and Shoichi Dashin standing behind them with their eyes closed. Their attention was also focused on the light and shadow presented by the Haotian mirror, and they were both silent. Yen Nanlai, Yun Yuanzhen, Lord Yuan, and the others also did not speak. They silently looked at Monk Dade in the light and shadow. Above Monk Dade's head, Rulai's Dharma body and the light and shadow of the Pure Land flickered, constantly changing between each other. When the light and shadow of the Pure Land lit up, the Rulai's Dharma body became dim and blurry. When the Rulai's Dharma body became clear, the light and shadow of the Pure Land was no longer bright. When this scene fell into the eyes of the onlookers, those with knowledge knew that this was not a mistake in Monk Dade's cultivation. Instead, his current state of mind was enough to break through to the Pure Land realm, but his accumulation of magic power was still lacking. After all, strictly speaking, according to the time of the vast thousand world, it had only been a few years since Monk Dade had advanced from the first tier of the Golden Body realm to the second tier. For mortals, a few years might bring about major changes, but for cultivators, especially experts at the realm of Zen Master Dade, even if they cultivated in the heavenly abode where time was accelerated 100 times, it would not be a long time. A seclusion might take 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years. Therefore, Monk Dade's current situation was that he had sufficient understanding of the principles and control of his state of mind, but his accumulation of foundation was still a little shallow. After the Battle of Mount Shu, Lin Feng used the Heaven Punishing Sword to send the Celestial Heaven Sword into destruction. The sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect, Sword Venerable Tongtian, had returned to the void and fused with the Tao on the spot. His accumulation was already enough, and he only lacked the last bit of the Tao mirror. Because the Celestial Heaven Sword had broken through that bit of obstruction, Sword Venerable Tongtian had immediately succeeded in fusing with his Tao fruit. But now, Monk Dade's situation was exactly the opposite. At this moment, a vast purple aura suddenly descended from the void. Around the purple aura, there were spots of Buddha's light flashing, surrounding the purple aura and landing on Monk Dade's body together. Chapter 1056. As the purple chi descended, Monk Dade's spirit was instantly lifted. At his current realm, spiritual chi was drawn from the world, and he rarely ran out of energy. However, there were exceptions to everything. Although the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was almost inexhaustible, according to the cultivator's own magical power, the efficiency and frequency of drawing and converting the spiritual chi of heaven and earth would differ. In a certain period of time, the consumption of magical power exceeded the speed of absorbing and converting the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Then, even a primordial divinity cultivator would feel exhausted. When a cultivator was breaking through to the next realm, he needed to accumulate enough magical power. Cultivating different Taoist techniques required different amounts of magical power. Monk Dade's current situation was that the consumption of magical power to cultivate the Pure Land exceeded the current limit of his Tathagata physique. But when this streak of purple energy descended, Zen Master Dade immediately felt that everything was greatly different. It was not that Lin Feng directly poured mana into his body, but rather that under the envelopment of the purple energy, the efficiency and frequency of Zen Master Dade converting and absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth greatly increased. To be able to do this, not only did Lin Feng's magical power have to be strong enough, but he also had to have a deep understanding of the Buddhist Dharma. Seeing this scene, Yen Nanlai, Yun Yuanzhen and the others could all confirm that Lin Feng definitely played a major role in Monk Dade being able to rise from the ashes. He was most likely the one who gave the warning and reminded Monk Dade. As expected, Monk Dade, who was shrouded by the purple chi, put his palms together and said, "Previously, thanks to Sect Master's guidance, this old monk understood karma, fate, and defying fate. Only then could I transcend the sea of bitterness. Now I have to trouble Sect Master again. This old monk is truly ashamed." In the void, Lin Feng's indifferent voice rang out, "Master, you are too courteous. Studying Zen and discussing Tao, distinguishing the truth is a common thing. Today, Master, you have attained the Pure Land and ascended to the ultimate bliss. This is a happy event. I will do my best to congratulate you. Lin Feng's voice was flat. Only Zen Master Dade could hear it. Zen Master Dade's voice didn't sound loud, but it traveled far. The Buddhist disciples on the cloud peak were all stunned. They stared blankly at the Pure Land above Zen Master Dade's head, which was becoming clearer and clearer. For a moment they were speechless. They only felt their minds become even more chaotic. Yuan Xan and Yuan Cheng's eyes were filled with confusion. Did Martial Uncle Dade betray our Buddhist teachings, or were we really wrong? However, that was based on the premise that Xianmen Tianzong's own strength was weak. With Xianmen Tianzong's current strength and status, there was no need to worry about this. Compared to Zen Master Dade's reconstruction of the Dharma body and the cultivation of the Pure Land, these possible subsequent situations were more important to the Taishu Temple. In terms of difficulty and ability requirements, raising a problem and solving a problem were also completely different concepts. Xianmen Tianzong, who could solve a problem, was stronger than Xianmen Tianzong, who could only raise a problem. In addition, the previous situation was that Zen Master Dade, who had worked hard for the sect without complaint, had his Zen heart broken by his own sect, causing his Rulai Dharma body to shatter. It was inevitable that the other guests and protectors in Xianmen Tianzong would feel disappointed, causing the experts from the outside world who wanted to submit to Xianmen Tianzong to shrink back and have many misgivings. But the current situation was that even if he worked hard and the sect provided all the resources he needed, he would still need a long period of bitter cultivation to have some certainty that he would be able to achieve the third level of the Buddhist Golden Body realm. After successfully breaking through and establishing, not long after advancing to the second level of the Golden Body realm, he would attack the third level of the Golden Body realm. Even if Lin Feng didn't help him today, and Zen Master Dade failed to break through the realm by himself, it was still a precious treasure. In the future, when he accumulated enough, there was also a huge hope of advancing to the third level of the Golden Body realm. The power of an example was limitless, whether it was a positive or negative example. After such an incident, the attraction of Xianmen Tianzong, whether it was to the rogue cultivators or to the other great powers in the Divine Land, would definitely rise to a huge level. And Xianmen Tianzong's own internal cohesion would also increase further. Just like when the matter had just fermented, the invisible, potential losses or gains were much greater than the immediate losses or gains. As for the thoughts of the experts of the other forces, there was no need for the Supreme One Tao Lord and the others to guess. Even with Lin Feng's help, Zen Master Dade took a long time to refine the Pure Land this time. And the big shots of the various forces who received the news all came to the area of Kunlun Mountain one after another. They stopped in the outer area and watched the Pure Land of Bliss gradually take shape with complicated feelings. At this time, if anyone were to launch an attack, Zen Master Dade would most likely waste all his previous efforts and even be injured. But in the boundary of Kunlun Mountain, as long as they saw the purple gas that enveloped Zen Master Dade, no one would have such thoughts. That was purely looking for trouble for themselves. Silently stood in the void, the great Qin dynasty's rose-sun monarch, Shi Zongmao, looked at Zen Master Dade expressionlessly, but his eyes were constantly flickering with flowing lights. He was carefully sensing and observing the difference between Zen Master Dade's Pure Land of Bliss and Amitabha light, and the other Buddhist Golden Body third-tier eminent monks who had cultivated the Pure Land of Bliss in his memory. The more he sensed, the more shocked Shi Zongmao was. Not to say how much more powerful it is, the key is that the concept is more perfect, free, and true. The strength of divine arts and magic power, the same realm, and the same orthodoxy, different people would have differences. But the difference in the concept of the principle meant that there was a completely different change in the foundation of the Tao. At this point, how could Shi Zhongmao still not understand that Zen Master Dade, who had successfully comprehended the principle and recognized himself, was truly breaking through and establishing, and taking a step further, and not simply stabilizing his Zen heart and restoring his original cultivation? I heard that he had previously said that it was thanks to the guidance of the Master of Xianmen that he was able to understand karma, fate, and defying fate, and finally transcend the sea of bitterness. Shi Zhongmao took a deep breath. Perhaps the reason why he could successfully comprehend the true meaning of the Amitabha Light Buddha Sutra and break through his original bottleneck was mostly because of his exquisite Buddhist cultivation, but it was the Master of Xianmen who pointed out the first step that he should take. At this time, Shi Zhongmao's feelings were rather complicated. The help that Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong had given to Zen Master Dade was not to give him advice on the specific details, to help him break through the bottleneck, or to suddenly encounter obstacles in his cultivation. Instead, it was to fundamentally correct the original deviation for Buddhism, changing the inherent concept, so that the bottleneck that should have been encountered no longer existed, and the obstacles that should have been encountered disappeared from the beginning. Of course, the mystery of the Great Way was unpredictable. Even the current Buddhist Dharma did not necessarily mean that it would be able to guide the cultivator to completely transcend the boundless sea of bitterness and reach the shore. But at least, the chance was greater than before. Perhaps this increase in hope was not great, but the Buddhist Tao of karma was one of the most profound great Taos in the world. Even if it was just a little bit of improvement, it was still very precious. It was an improvement that many people might not be able to achieve even if they worked hard for their entire lives. In addition to Shi Zhongmao, the Northern Militant Royal Court's first Chanyu, Purple Cloud Taoist sect Master Thundercloud, Thunderbolt Sword sect Master Thunderbolt, and even the Heavenly Sword sect Master Tongtian, Songhai Sword sect Master Songhai, and the current Reincarnation sect Master Azura Mo Shuluo and other experts were standing in the void above the mountains with complicated expressions. The pressure of a group of primordial soul experts was enough to change the color of heaven and earth. But at this moment, in the Kunlun mountain range, everyone involuntarily restrained their own aura. Silently, they looked at the purple chi that enveloped Zen Master Dade. They looked at the source of the purple chi, the void that was difficult to detect. Although they could not see it, they knew that the purple-clothed young man who caused such a huge wave in the divine land was there. Everyone could not help but think, the way of karma is already one of the most profound great ways in the world, but that person can still give advice. Then the others. Chapter 1057. Just like the monks who left the Kunlun mountain, the details of what had happened before were spread all over the world. Then, the process of Buddhist monk Dade remodeling the infinite light Buddha body and trying to break through the third level of the golden body realm was spread all over the divine land. Some people who were not there also knew what had happened before through various channels. The Wilderness Sword sect was located at the barren peak in the southern foothills of the Great Transverse Mountain. In the main hall of the sect at the top of the mountain, Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness looked calm, while the elders of the Wilderness Sword sect in front of him all looked gloomy. An elder looked at Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness and said, "Master." Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness turned around and asked calmly, "What?" That elder was speechless, and the others were also speechless for a while, but their hearts were extremely heavy. "I know what you're worried about," Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness said silently, "but now it's beyond our control. We can only wait and see." An elder said in a deep voice, "Sovereign, the actions of the celestial sect of Xianmen are too overbearing. The Great Lane Temple has already been destroyed, and there are only survivors left. If the same thing were to happen to our sect, the result would be unimaginable. The many years of foundation passed down by the ancestors of the great desolate Sword Venerable might even be destroyed." That's right, that's right. The others nodded in agreement, their faces showing fear and dread. Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness still looked calm. He said lightly, "If Xianmen Tianzong really wanted to destroy the orthodoxy of our wilderness sword sect, it wouldn't be so troublesome. The master of Xian's sect doesn't need to do it himself. Any one of the 4 heroes of Xian's sect under his command can destroy our barren peak." Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness's tone was calm, but no one present was dissatisfied. It was because Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness was stating an accurate fact. Although it sounded like he was undermining their prestige, when the gap between the two sides was large to a certain extent, they had to accept it calmly. What's more, with the strength that Xianmen Tianzong showed today, what Sword Venerable of the Great Wilderness said was not shameful. The Honorable Swordsman of the Great Wilderness glanced at the group of elders in the sect and said slowly, "If we were to shake the foundation of the Great Desolation sword technique of our sect, it would completely destroy our orthodoxy. If we were to destroy it, there might be people like the Great Lane Temple who manage to escape and pass on the sword principles of our sect. If the celestial sect of 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 the celestial sect," the Honorable Swordsman of the Great Wilderness said faintly, "the situation in the Divine Land is no longer the same as it was 10 years ago in the vast Thousand Domains, before the Battle of West Hill. It is unknown whether the Taishu Temple will protect our sect. Even if they want to protect us, it's hard to say if they can protect us against Xianmen Tianzong. Thus, the current situation is not something that we can control. Let's just wait and see. Based on the development of the situation, Xianmen Tianzong might not have intentionally provoked and humiliated the Buddhist sect." An elder said worriedly, "Even if Xianmen Tianzong's action this time was unintentional, who knows if his next unintentional mistake will fall on us." He looked at Sword Master of the Great Wilderness and said, "Over the years, our sect has had a lot of communication with Xianmen Tianzong on the path of refining weapons, so that he knows some of the contents of the Great Desolation Sword Book. Of course, we have also gained a lot of benefits. However, the master of Xianmen's sect is a pedantic person. No one can be sure whether he can deduce the complete orthodoxy of our sect from the clues. What if Xianmen Tianzong's Taoism was much more profound than theirs? It was still uncertain whether he would take a fancy to their Great Desolation Sword Book. However, they were afraid that Lin Feng and his disciple would deal with the Great Desolation Sword Book like the Buddhist incantation." Sword Master of the Great Wilderness frowned. When he was about to speak, he suddenly thought of something. He pondered for a moment. After a while, his calm face gradually revealed a surprised expression. The elders of the Wilderness Sword sect looked at each other. Their hearts were beating fast, and they looked at their sect master with surprise and uncertainty. "I just got the news that the guest elder of Xianmen Tianzong, Monk Dade, has shown great wisdom on Kunlun Mountain and rebuilt the Buddha's Dharma body in a short period of time." Sword Master of the Great Wilderness came to his senses and looked at his disciples. "Not only that, but he has also made a further impact on the 3rd level of the Buddhist Golden Body realm. Under the protection of the Master of Xianmen's sect, he has cultivated the Elysium Pure Land." "What?" Everyone stood up from their seats in shock. Even though they had lived for thousands of years, they could not stay calm at this moment. They all looked at Sword Master of the Great Wilderness in shock. An elder hurriedly asked, "Sect Master, did Monk Dade find the fallacy of Xianmen Tianzong's theory and thus restabilize his Zen heart and restore his cultivation?" "If that's the case, why would the master of Xianmen's sect personally protect him and help him break through the realm? Even if there were people who refuted him, there were others who supported his point of view." "That's not necessarily true. The master of the celestial sect has always been generous to his own people. There is nothing to say about his magnanimity. Even if Zen Master Dade made him or his disciples lose some face, he would most likely not care about it. Sword Master of the Great Wilderness shook his head. According to the news from the Master of Xianmen sect, Monk Dade's Dharma cultivation is not simply restored. Instead, he has made further progress after breaking through. That's from the advice of the Master of Xianmen sect. It's like a blow to the head that made Monk Dade have an epiphany and achieve the Elysium Pure Land. I'm afraid it's better than that of his Buddhist predecessors. Hearing this, everyone sat back in their chairs in a daze. They were a little absent-minded for a while. After a while, someone suddenly looked at Sword Master of the Great Wilderness. Sect Master, Sword Master of the Great Wilderness looked at that elder. The elder was trying hard to calm down and make his expression as calm as possible. But he could still easily see the passion hidden deep in the elder's eyes. The others also sensed the blazing heat, which made their originally complicated feelings instantly become lively. At this moment, the others had already understood what the elder was thinking about. However, everyone, including Sword Master of the Great Wilderness, was still hesitant and had many concerns. Similar scenes were happening in almost every place in the Divine Land. Everything was developing according to the expectations of Taishu Temple. However, people in Taishu Temple could not feel happy. It was also developing according to expectations. However, compared with the time before Monk Dade reconstructed his Dharma body and achieved the Pure Land, the situation was completely reversed. At this moment, the situation in the Divine Land had also become very delicate. Although the other superpowers were a little hesitant, they were, after all, the superpowers that had been passed down for many years. They had their own pride and persistence. It was difficult for them to make up their minds to go to Kunlun Mountain directly. Xianmen Tianzong had collected a lot of Dharma. There were objective factors. The identity of Monk Dade was also relatively special. As for the other orthodoxies, it was unknown whether Lin Feng and his disciple would use the same method to deal with them. Moreover, it had to be said that Taishu Temple was still standing. The Great Way of Taishu was still famous. This also caused many sects to have doubts. Currently, the situation between the two superpowers in the Divine Land was not completely clear. However, in the eyes of those who were observant, the undercurrent was surging. This had already caused them to be cautious. However, the delicate situation had become very fragile. If something similar were to happen in the future, it would very likely cause the superpowers to make a decision. After all, what Xianmen Tianzong could offer was no longer just pure benefit. The value was immeasurable. In the palace of Tianjing City, the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty, Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou's expression was solemn and gloomy. In the quiet room, the golden body of Monk Dakong was full of cracks. It was mottled and messy. It was full of a sense of ruin. This was the result of Liang Pan trying his best to suppress it. Otherwise, the golden body of Monk Dakong would have been completely shattered. Liang Pan said slowly, "Master, contact your senior, Zen Master De Ning. Then, try to get specific guidance from Zen Master De De about the Master of Xianmen. Otherwise, your situation is worrying." The monk Dakong looked up at him. His eyes were filled with confusion. After a long while, his eyes regained focus. He smiled bitterly and said, "I'm afraid it's too late. You still have a chance to make a comeback. Don't give up hope. The Great Zhou dynasty and I will provide you with all kinds of resources," Liang Pan said. The monk Dakong nodded with difficulty. I'll try." After leaving the quiet room of the monk Dakong, Liang Pan returned to the main palace hall. He sat on the dragon throne and frowned. Suddenly, a ball of light appeared in front of him. In the light, Zhu Hongwu's figure could be seen. Zhu Hongwu bowed and said, "Your humble servant greets your majesty." "Greetings, your majesty." Liang Pan's frown deepened. "Hongwu, focus on your cultivation. Strive to reach the unification realm as soon as possible. Don't get distracted. Silently, Zhu Hongwu said, I suddenly felt uneasy when I was cultivating. That's why I came to see your majesty. Hearing this, Liang Pan fell silent. Slowly, Zhu Hongwu said, when I was trying to figure out the Buddhist Tao of karma, I suddenly felt the Tao of heaven and earth shaking. It seemed like there was some special change. I think it has something to do with the Tao of karma. I wonder if your majesty has any news about it? It seems like after Zen Master De had an epiphany, he understood the truth and had a clear Zen heart. However, he also found some clues in the Tao of karma. That's why you, Hongwu, were also affected. Liang Pan shook his head and told Zhu Hongwu everything that had happened. However, he still did not mention Xianmen Tianzong's explanation of the Tao of karma. He looked at Zhu Hongwu and said, I have already ordered Zen Master De Kong to find a way to obtain Xianmen Tianzong's complete explanation of the Tao of karma, from his doubts to his solution. Hongwu, please wait patiently. Zhu Hongwu's eyes flickered. After a long time, he said, Please forgive me, your majesty. I want to hear Xianmen Tianzong's explanation and doubts about the Tao of karma. As for how the master of the celestial sect will enlighten Zen Master De, there's no hurry. Hearing this, Liang Pan was not surprised at all. However, his expression became even more gloomy. He did not tell Zhu Hongwu about this before because he wanted to avoid such a situation. However, Zhu Hongwu had sensed the problem because of his own cultivation. If he did not solve this problem, Zhu Hongwu would always feel uneasy when he went into seclusion. If he wanted to return to the void and unification realm, he would not be able to succeed. It would only be a waste of time. If he could comprehend the truth on his own, he would be able to return to the void and unification realm easily. He was different from Zen Master De. In the past, he had suffered too many losses at the hands of Lin Feng and had never been able to get back at him. With his temperament and martial intent, if he were to pass the test under Lin Feng's guidance this time, there would be endless troubles in the future. It would create a mental barrier, and he would not be able to advance to the unification realm. Even though he knew that there was a wall in front of him, Zhu Hongwu had to use his own strength to break through it. There was no way out. Chapter 1058. Zhu Hongwu looked at Liang Pan. Your subject's Tao heart, martial artist's will, fist technique and fist intent are not based on the Buddhist Dharma. As for the Buddhist Dharma's Tao of karma, it is only for my own use. Shaking the Tao of karma does not mean that it can shake your subject's martial Tao. Dade, Danning, and Dakong's Zen hearts were broken, but it doesn't mean my Taoist heart will be broken. Your Majesty, please judge. Liang Pan looked worried. Hongwu, I know that you are not based on Buddhism, but Xianmen Tianzong did not deny the karma path. Zhu Hongwu frowned. Then how did he shake the Zen hearts of Dakong and the others? Liang Pan stared at him for a while and finally said, Xianmen Tianzong proved that not everything is empty, but karma is. Zhu Hongwu said, This theory is not new. Liang Pan said word by word, the key lies in the method Xianmen Tianzong used to prove it. Zhu Hongwu cupped his hands. Your Majesty, please explain. In the explanation of the celestial sect of Xianmen, everything in the world has an existence that is neither cause nor effect. There is no antecedent cause or consequence. There is no way to deduce or reverse it. Liang Pan finally said, There is no way to understand the past and future of its existence through cause and effect. Hearing this, Zhu Hongwu frowned and clenched his fists by his side. What evidence do they have? Liang Pan waved his hand and sent out a light shadow. Zhu Hongwu stared at the light shadow, and his face darkened. In the end, his face was as dark as water. There is such a thing. In this case, there is no way to use the karma path to understand the life force and fate of everyone. There will be uncontrollable and unexpected things. Such a thing really exists. Zhu Hongwu closed his eyes. Can this karma path be controlled? How? Can I understand the past, present, and future of all living beings if I understand the karma path and the karma path together? Liang Pan looked at Zhu Hongwu and sighed in his heart. What he was worried about had happened. To Zhu Hongwu, the Buddhist Dharma's Tao of karma was not the foundation of his life. He also did not believe that the Tao of karma was the supreme Tao in the world and that karma could contain everything. However, Zhu Hongwu's martial Tao was indeed based on the Tao of karma and the Tao of heaven, which were extremely compatible with each other, as the foundation. The Tao of karma explained the principles of all things, while the great heavenly Taos carried the will of all the Taos in the world. When the two of them combined, they fused with the domineering concept in the Taihuang scripture. Finally, they fused together to become the heavenly Tao and all living beings, turning the wheel of life, death, and fate. The main reason why Zhu Hongwu valued the Tao of karma was because he was well versed in karma. He could understand the three lives of all living beings, past, present, and future, and from there, he could control the lives of all living beings. Unlike Buddhist cultivators, Zhu Hongwu's situation was a fusion of half Tao and half technique. On one hand, he firmly believed that karma could explain all principles, and on the other hand, he used this Tao as a tool to help him perfect his martial arts fist intent. The problem now was that when Zhu Hongwu discovered that there were other things that the Tao of karma couldn't explain, he couldn't help but have stronger doubts. How could such a Tao of karma help him perfect his martial Tao and achieve his original goal? It was also a little superficial, but it eventually spread to the whole body. Before he understood the crux of it, Zhu Hongwu couldn't convince himself to incorporate the Tao of karma into his martial Tao. His martial Tao pursued the extreme realm. In a sense, it was the pursuit of perfection. Before he understood the relationship and mystery between fate-defying and fate, it would be very difficult for him to continue cultivating his martial Tao. It wasn't impossible for him to continue cultivating, but this matter would be like a thorn in his heart, and he would always worry about it. Under such circumstances, even if he had earth-shattering power and shocking talent, it would be difficult for him to return to the void and merge with the Tao. A similar situation was somewhat similar to how he had been stuck in the primordial spirit incarnation realm because of Meng Bingyun, and it was difficult for him to refine his spirit to return to the void. If the Tao of karma doesn't work, then what kind of Tao can understand all things and all things? Zhu Hongwu stood where he was, and his aura vaguely became a little violent. Then it calmed down, then became violent again, and then calmed down again. This cycle repeated endlessly. This lasted for a long time, and Liang Pan didn't say a word. He just looked at his loyal subject calmly. After a long time, Zhu Hongwu finally calmed down completely. He knelt before Liang Pan and said, "I'm guilty. Although I can't understand it at the moment, it has pointed out a direction for me. In the process of cultivating the Tao of karma, I once had some doubts. Now I've verified my guess in the past, but..." His eyes were still closed tightly, and his hands were clenched into fists like a statue. "If I want to completely understand the truth, I'm afraid it won't be done in a short period of time. I need a long time to think about it, and I'm afraid I won't be able to return to the void and merge with the Tao in the expected time. I've messed up your Majesty's plans. I beg your Majesty's forgiveness." Liang Pan sighed. "It doesn't matter if you refine your spirit and return to the void a little later. I only hope that this matter won't affect your Tao heart, Hongwu." Zhu Hongwu remained silent and didn't answer. He only kowtowed on the ground. Although he didn't speak, Liang Pan knew what he was thinking. This wasn't the first time they had suffered at the hands of Lin Feng. Especially this time, Zhu Hongwu was the one who took the initiative to hit the wall. If he directly broke the wall, it would be a whole new world from now on. Not only would Zhu Hongwu successfully return to the void and merge with the Tao, but his dermic powers would also reach a new level. However, time waited for no man. If Zhu Hongwu could understand it in a short period of time, everything would be fine. However, if he took too long, he would suffer from the pressure of the external environment. Not only would he delay things, but Zhu Hongwu would also feel unnecessary pressure in his heart. It was an opportunity to turn pressure into motivation, but if he couldn't resolve it, the obstacles in his heart would only become heavier and heavier, and he would fall into a vicious cycle. This time, he took the initiative to hit the wall, which was equivalent to a failure. He didn't break the wall, and instead, he hit himself until his head bled again. But for Zhu Hongwu, he had no choice but to hit the wall. If he broke it, there was still a chance, but if he didn't, there would be no chance at all. Based on Zhu Hongwu's personality, he had to face difficulties head-on. Because of Liang Pan's imperial order, he had already tried his best to suppress his drive. If he stagnated in his cultivation because of Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong, it would instead become an obstacle to his cultivation. In particular, according to the previous news, the people who first raised concrete evidence to doubt the Tao of Karma were Lin Feng's disciples, including Zhu Yi. This was a dilemma for Zhu Hongwu. Since he couldn't retreat, he might as well face difficulties head-on. If there was a wall in front of him, he would use his own strength to break it, and naturally, there would be no obstruction. This was also another manifestation of his martial will. Martial experts had to do their best to carry out their martial will. Suppressing oneself was harmful, and not only could one not improve, but it would also cause one to regress. This was the reason why Liang Pan knew that the situation wasn't optimistic, but in the end, he still allowed Zhu Hongwu to try. Once again tasting this feeling of helplessness and powerlessness, Liang Pan was also extremely depressed and humiliated, but he could only grit his teeth and swallow it. It was just that things didn't go as one wished. This time, the result of facing difficulties head-on made Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu full of bitterness. Zhu Hongwu was confident in himself, but his judgment was very accurate. After thinking for a moment, he had already seen that if he wanted to rely on himself to solve Xianmen Tianzong's doubts about the Tao of Karma, he couldn't accomplish it in a short period of time. Moreover, in the end, he might have to place his hopes on Monk De Kong to obtain the essence of Monk De De's comprehension. And this was even more unacceptable for Zhu Hongwu, because of the obstacles in his heart, not only was it not beneficial, but it was also harmful. If it really came to that step, Zhu Hongwu was more likely to choose to directly cut off his wrists and completely abandon the Tao of Karma, and start anew to polish his martial Tao. But in that case, the day of his void return and Tao integration would be even more unpredictable, and it might even cause a blow to his Tao heart and confidence. Personality determined fate. This saying might not necessarily be applicable at all times, but at this moment, it was vividly reflected on Zhu Hongwu. The ruler and the minister of the great Zhou dynasty, facing each other, were speechless. After a long while, they squeezed out 4 words from between their teeth: Xian, gate, heaven, sect. Lin Feng and his disciples, who had unintentionally dug a big hole and sent Zhu Hongwu into a dilemma, were now on Yujing Mountain, sitting together on the bamboo chairs on the 3rd floor of the scripture depository. Lin Feng looked at Wang Lin with a smile. "Very good, little Lin, you have comprehended the yin and yang unity scripture, and you have already seen the first signs of Kung Fu." Wang Lin answered, "It's all thanks to Master's guidance. Not only did it awaken Monk De De, it also made me understand many truths in my heart, and I have a better understanding of the mysterious Tao of heaven and earth." Lin Feng waved his hand. "Master leads the way, but cultivation depends on the individual. This is the result of your own hard work, and I am very happy for you." He looked at Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao and smiled. "The 3 of you are also very good. You have gradually found your future direction. Focus on cultivation and work hard. Xiao Yan and the other two nodded with a smile. We will follow Master's teachings, we will definitely cultivate diligently. The matter this time around is truly unexpected. However, the effects of this matter are truly far-reaching. After bidding farewell to his disciples, Lin Feng thought with some mischief in his heart, Tsk, after all, it's two different worlds, but I wonder if the original knowledge can still be used. I really don't know. If I come up with the uncertainty principle or delay the experiment, will the people of this world who believe in the path of cause and effect collapse even more, or will they be able to understand more things? I also don't know if these things can be effective in this great Tianyuan world. When I have free time, I can give it a try, it'll be quite interesting. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head, quickly putting these things behind him, and focused his attention on his own cultivation again. And in the following days, Lin Feng also received good news one after another. For example, after Tang Jun successfully passed the Void Thunder Tribulation, his 10th disciple who reached the nascent soul stage within 50 years appeared. It had not yet been 50 years, and the proportion of people who were in the Yuanying Golden Elixir period and Foundation Establishment period had already reached the task standard. The only problem was that the total number of people was not more than 1,000. If he wanted to hand in the task, Lin Feng could now directly take the initiative to do it. But at this moment, he was thinking about how to deal with the current main task. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.